Chapter 828. When the man whom Qin Yiru referred to as her cousin walked in, there were two people following behind him. Qin Yiru's cousin poked his head in when he saw the door open. When he saw that there was someone in the house, he brought his wife and daughter into the house. "Oh, Yiru, you're here. I thought you'd gone out," Qin Yiru's cousin said with a chuckle despite knowing the answer. As he spoke, he pulled his wife and daughter into the house. "Cousin, why are you here?" Qin Yiru quickly put down the barbecue tools she was fiddling with and stood up as she spoke. I heard that you're getting married. Since I'm free today, I thought I'd come to give you some money as a wedding gift," Qin Yiru's cousin said as he walked in through the door. Qin Yiru's cousin's name was Lin Jiahao. Lin Jiahao was a distant relative on Zhang Meihua's side. Zhang Meihua had many siblings in her generation. Naturally, Qin Yiru had many cousins as well. Lin Jiahao was one of them among this group of cousins. Back then, due to the lack of family planning, Zhang Meihua's mother's generation, who was also Yun Jian's grandmother's mother's generation, had children one after another despite living in poverty. They were very fertile. Therefore, to Qin Yiru, her cousins had reached a whole new level. She had a total of 10 to 20 cousins, excluding the cousins on her father's side. Therefore, Qin Yiru did not have much contact with her cousins like Lin Jiahao. Therefore, when she saw Lin Jiahao, Qin Yiru was clearly stunned. After all, Lin Jiahao did not even come when she and Yun Gang got married. Yet, he suddenly appeared here today, claiming that he was here to give her and Gu Yunjian's wedding gift. However, before Qin Yiru could think further, Lin Jiahao had already walked over with a red packet in his hand. He said courteously as he handed it over, "My cousin's family is poor. We don't have much money. When I heard that you're getting married, I rushed over from home. My cousin's family used to be so poor that we didn't even have enough to eat. Now that I know that you're getting married, I have to rush over to give you my blessings." He was giving money as a wedding gift. In rural terms, it was to pray for peace and good luck. Qin Yiru was embarrassed to not accept it. "Cousin, you're too kind. Sit down and have a cup of tea." Qin Yiru took the money and ran to the kitchen. Not long after that, she came out with a pot of hot water. Lin Jiahao didn't feel awkward at all. Instead, he smiled casually and pulled his wife and daughter to sit down as well. Was Qin Yiru's mother's family. Xiao Yunju and the other two looked disappointed. However, the three of them were well behaved. They didn't cry or make a fuss. "Mom, are we leaving?" Yun Jian came downstairs when she heard her mother's voice. "Not yet. We have guests at home. Let's go later," Qin Yiru said to Yun Jian. Then she walked over to Lin Jiahao and the other two with a pot of hot water. To Qin Yiru, a visitor was a guest. Even if Lin Jiahao, her cousin, didn't have much contact with her, since he was here, she had to treat him well. Lin Jiahao took the tea from Qin Yiru's hands. He looked at Gu Junjian as he drank and asked, "This is my cousin-in-law, right?" "Yes." Qin Yiru nodded happily. Her face was filled with a smile that couldn't be ignored. "Then this is your daughter, Yun Jian?" Lin Jiahao looked at Yun Jian, who had just come downstairs. His eyes flashed as he asked. Hearing Lin Jiahao's question, Qin Yiru nodded. "Yes." Chapter 829. The news that Qin Yiru had a capable daughter, who was the director of new crews, had spread throughout Xinjiang town. Not just Xinjiang town. Zhang Meihua had visited all her relatives and friends after the news was exposed, bragging proudly about Yun Jian's capabilities. Now there was not a single one of Zhang Meihua's relatives and friends who did not know about Yun Jian's identity as new cruise's director. Lin Jiahao must have rushed here to give money after hearing that Qin Yiru was getting married soon because of Yun Jian's identity. Xiao Jian is an obedient child. She's filial too, haha. Qin Yiru said in relief, but did not praise her daughter's excellence in front of Lin Jiahao. It was not appropriate to say it in front of outsiders. "Xian, take a good look at your cousin. She's the director of a company at such a young age. What about you? You only know how to go out and have fun." Lin Jiahao couldn't help but say as he poked his daughter's hand. "What kind of game is this?" Lin Jiahao couldn't help but say. Lin Jiahao's daughter was called Lin Xian. She was not particularly good-looking, probably because she inherited Lin Jiahao's looks. Lin Jiahao's wife, who was the woman sitting beside him with a dark expression, had a decent figure and above-average looks. Lin Jiahao's wife was called Lian. She was rather good-looking. At least, there were not many people who looked like her in the countryside. It was just that Lian was upset when Lin Jiahao praised Yunjian and criticized their daughter. Lian was unhappy. Her unhappiness was written all over her face. Stretching her hand, she pinched Lin Jiahao's arm harshly. Of course, her gesture did not escape Yunjian's eyes. Qin Yiru did not see it though. It's good that children like to play. Lively children will be successful in the future. Qin Yiru commented in a friendly manner. Humph. Hypocrite. Lin Xian glared at Qin Yiru in disgust when she heard what the latter said before turning away. That temper. Keep it in check. Lin Jiahao slapped Lin Xian at once. He then told Qin Yiru apologetically. My Xian is like that. Don't be mad at her. All children are like that. Qin Yiru chuckled awkwardly. Gu Junjian was currently sitting on the sofa with Qin Yiru. Yunjian was leaning against the sofa with her arms crossed. Lin Jiahao chatted idly with Qin Yiru for a while more before he asked. Yiru, your daughter's company is doing so well. Why don't we let Xuanxuan's company? She's doing's company. One more person, isn't that right? Yunjian's Yiru's why he's is. It was not a question, but a direct answer. He did not even ask if Qin Yiru and Yunjian agreed to it. Lin Jiahao made it sound like it was a great honor for him to let his precious daughter follow Yunjian to new cruise. Chapter 830. Lin Xian was indeed not very good-looking. Lian was tall, and she was 1.65 meters tall. She was the standard height of a woman, and she looked alright. Lin Jiahao, on the other hand, was not very good-looking, and he was short. Lin Jiahao was only 1.64 meters tall. And he was even shorter than Lian. The couple's genes were intertwined. Logically speaking, Lin Xian should not be short, even if Lin Jiahao was not that tall. But for some reason Lin Xian was only 1.52 meters tall. 1.52 meters. If Lin Xian was pretty, it would not be a big deal. In fact, as long as she was pretty and pleasing to the eye, according to modern standards, as long as she was good-looking, even if she was 1.50 meters tall, people would say that she was cute and adorable. But Lin Xian was short, and she was also fat. She was only 1.52 meters tall, but she weighed more than 120 kilograms. On top of that, Lin Xian's nose was flat, and her face was fat. She was not cute at all. Therefore, when Lian complimented her daughter, Lin Xian, on the other hand, Yunjian turned around and chuckled unkindly. Despite that, Yunjian did not make a sound. Of course, if Qin Yiru had praised Lin Xian's looks, Yunjian would not have found it funny. But when it came from Lin Xian's mother, Lian, it felt completely different. It was said that family members did not praise their own family. But Lian? She, on the other hand, was praising her own daughter to the heavens. Qin Yiru, who was questioned, was rather embarrassed. After all, to Qin Yiru, new cruise was not hers but Yunjian's. This was something that Qin Yiru could not agree to Lin Jiahao's request. Moreover, Lin Jiahao and the others had suddenly come. To be honest, Qin Yiru did not like them at all. She had thought that Lin Jiahao and the others were starting to value their family. Today, they had come to give her dowry money because of her wedding. But Qin Yiru did not expect this at all. Why did her cousin suddenly come to visit? So this was his motive. Qin Yiru's heart sank. How is it? Yiru, my Xian isn't bad at all. Other than English, she's in the top 5 in all her subjects. She will definitely be a talent in the future. If I let Xian follow your daughter will have picked up a treasure early. When Lian saw Qin Yiru pause, she panicked and urged her. When Qin Yiru had married Yungang, Lin Jiahao and the others had looked down on Qin Yiru the most. They had thought that Qin Yiru would never amount to anything in this lifetime. Therefore, when Qin Yiru and Yungang got married, Lin Jiahao and the others didn't even come to congratulate them, let alone give them money. However, when he heard that Qin Yiru's daughter, Yunjian, was the director of new cruise, Lin Jiahao could not take it anymore. It was only natural that they would be jealous. After all, New Cruise's daily sales were in the tens of millions. All of this belonged to Qin Yuru's daughter, whom they had looked down on back then. I can't make decisions about New Cruise. I'm just cooking at home now, I'm not at work. Qin Yuru smiled awkwardly, her tactful rejection not giving anyone a chance to find a loophole. It was just that when Lin Jiahao heard Qin Yuru say that she could not make decisions, his gaze shifted to Yun Jian. You're Xiao Jian, aren't you? Haha, my Xian is excellent. Can you let her intern in New Cruise with you? Lin Jiahao's attitude was sincere and tactful. It was just that Yun Jian rejected Lin Jiahao's tactful attitude decisively. No. Chapter 831. Lin Jiahao and Shintalian's fawning faces froze in an instant. Tell me, what kind of young lady would reject someone's invitation so straightforwardly? It was undeniable that Lin Jiahao and Shintalian were shocked by Yun Jian's straightforward rejection. But who was Lin Jiahao? He was so thick-skinned that even an atomic bomb could not penetrate his skin. How could he be discouraged by Yun Jian's rejection? Was the money he had given to Qin Yuru for nothing? Since he had given it away, he had to get his money back. Hee, you can't do that now, can you? I know, I understand. Haha, New Cruise must be doing something now. Reformation, right? They've even changed a bunch of employees. They're selecting talents, right? Lin Jiahao had some understanding of New Cruise, so what he said had some basis in fact. It's fine if you can't take my Xian in now. She's still young anyway. When she grows up, she'll graduate from a proper university. Hee, it shouldn't be hard for her to become a manager in New Cruise then, haha. Lin Jiahao indulged in his own self-praise. Yun Jian ignored him. Yun Jian did not want to bother with someone like Lin Jiahao. Qin Yuru only smiled awkwardly. But it was not hard to tell that Qin Yuru was extremely embarrassed. After all, Lin Jiahao had come to her door to beg her daughter to join her company. Moreover, it was mainly because of Lin Jiahao's daughter. It was a little unsightly. Under such circumstances, Qin Yuru naturally did not like it. Moreover, this was not her company but her daughter's company. Qin Yuru was even more displeased now. Ping ping ping. Ping ping ping. Ping ping. There was a commotion on the stairs. Then something made of metal rolled down. Lin Jiahao and the rest who were sitting downstairs were shocked. Then, Shuang leaped down from the railing on the second floor. Lin Jiahao and the other two just happened to be sitting facing the stairs, and they happened to see Shuang leap down from the second floor. Yun Jian was standing with her back to the stairs, but Yun Jian could hear the sound behind her. Seeing Shuang suddenly jump down from the second floor, Lin Jiahao and the other two were scared out of their wits on the spot. Only then did they react. Oh my God! Lin Jiahao and the other two screamed in unison. They looked as if their guts were about to burst. Shuang was stunned for 2 seconds when he saw an outsider. He picked up the silver spoon from the floor and went upstairs as if nothing had happened. Halfway up the stairs to the second floor, Shuang turned his head to look at Qin Yuru and asked casually, "Are you leaving?" "Not yet. Just wait a little longer," Qin Yuru replied. Shuang nodded and went upstairs with the spoon. How could he say that he and Emo's son had accidentally dropped the spoon when they were discussing which spoon to use for the barbecue upstairs? He also wouldn't say that it was their young master who threw the spoon down. Until Shuang went upstairs, Lin Jiahao and the other two were still in a state of shock. Someone actually jumped down from the second floor and was not injured at all. He couldn't have been trained, right? Although there was a long scar on Shui Ying's neck, Shui Ying's facial features were excellent, even more outstanding than Adam's. Therefore, Lin Xian, who was full of arrogance just now, was a bit infatuated. Chapter 832. Also, the way he jumped down was so cool. It was a pity that this man had such a deep scar on his neck. Otherwise, she would have pursued him no matter what. While Lin Xian was thinking about this, she did not think about whether her looks were good enough for Shuang. What? Cousin, you guys are? Lin Jiahao finally saw the barbecue tools that Qin Yuru had placed on the ground. It was not that he had just seen it. It was just that Lin Jiahao had spoken to Qin Yuru with an ulterior motive just now. Now that Yun Jian did not agree to it when he brought up his purpose, That was why he asked in such a tone. Cousin, are you guys going for a picnic? Lin Jiahao asked. Yes, isn't spring coming? Everything is coming back to life, so we wanted to take the children out for a walk. We didn't have time before, but now that we have time, we decided to go for a spring outing as a family, Qin Yiru said happily. Isn't this a coincidence? Actually, our family was planning to go out today, but you guys want to go too. Why don't we go together? Since the weather is good today, let's go together? Won't one more person be one more companion? Lin Jiahao said in an uninvited tone as usual. This, Qin Yiru naturally did not want to. She originally wanted to take her family out for a walk, and there were not many barbecue ingredients for today's barbecue. If she added Lin Jiahao and the other two, she would probably only get a small amount of barbecue. Cousin, you're so understanding, so you'll definitely agree. Then it's settled, let's go. Lin Jiahao said as he stood up and stretched. That's great. I haven't had barbecue in a long time. It's great. Lin Xian also stood up. Her fat body looked disgusting. I haven't had barbecue in a long time too. I'm craving it. Shen Lian also stood up and said. She looked like she would not leave until she had barbecue. I'll go buy some more barbecue ingredients. Gu Junjian saw that Qin Yiru was in a dilemma, so he stood up and walked out. Gu Junjian did not want Qin Yiru to be in such a difficult position. As long as Qin Yiru was happy, even if he had to spend some money on Qin Yiru's relatives, it would be good enough. Cousin-in-law, you don't have to buy too many barbecue ingredients. 100 lamb skewers are enough. Oh, Xian likes to eat sausages, that's all. Lin Jiahao made the decision. Gu Junjian wasn't an obedient person, so he ignored Lin Jiahao's words. Villagers liked gossiping, especially people like Lin Jiahao. If Qin Yiru had rejected Lin Jiahao right to his face today, he would probably run back to the village and gossip about it. By then Qin Yiru's reputation would be ruined. Yun Jian was not happy with Lin Jiahao's family, but since Qin Yiru did not object, she did not care. It would be fine as long as she ate her own food. If Lin Jiahao's family wanted to take advantage of the situation, or go overboard, she did not mind teaching them a lesson. Let's go, yay. Xiao Yunju and the other two had been waiting for a long time. When they heard that they were leaving, the three of them immediately jumped up and down happily. Let's go, let's go. Shui Ying and Emo Sun quickly came down when they heard the sound. Ce, on the other hand, walked behind them. Chapter 833. If Lin Xian thought that Shui Ying's looks were outstanding when she first saw him, his features were well-defined and lively, then the current Ce did not seem real at all. He was handsome, but that was all there was to it. In comparison, Ce, who was walking behind Shui Ying and Emo Sun, gave off an unmistakable sense of handsomeness. Lin Xian's mouth was agape just by looking at him. She was almost drooling. Oh my this. Yiru, why are there so many people in your family? Who are the three of them? Even the middle-aged Shen Lian could not help but stare. The three of them. The one behind is my friend's nephew. We're family. Qin Yiru smiled, but did not answer in detail. Of course, she would not reveal that Ce was her chosen son-in-law. After all, they were not that close to Lin Jiahao's family. After the previous incident, Qin Yiru was actually more cautious about everything now. She was no longer as courteous to some people as before. After all, people change. Auntie, I mean your friend's nephew. What's his name? Lin Xian's eyes widened the moment she saw Ce. She could not help but walk up to Qin Yiru to ask. Even her tone had changed. Lin Xian was as rude to Qin Yiru as she pretended to be gracious now. His name is Ce. Although Qin Yiru was a little unhappy with Lin Xian's question, she still replied symbolically. Ce. Lin Xian muttered in her heart. Her plump cheeks could not help but make people feel disgusted. Xiao Yunju did not stick to Ce as much now that he had Duan Li and Duanya. However, Xiao Yunju still glared at Lin Xian when he saw Ce coming down the stairs. He then ran over to pull Yun Jian to Ce and called out to Ce. Brother Ce. Ce reached out and rubbed Xiao Yunju's head out of habit. Let's go. Ce's slightly hoarse voice could be heard. With that, Ce held Yun Jian's hand. He held Yun Jian's hand. Lin Xian felt like her heart was about to break. It was rare for her to meet a man who suited her so well. Was he Yunjian's? Why? Why? Was it just because Yunjian was beautiful? Although Lin Xian was ugly, her heart was extremely good. Why couldn't anyone see the beauty in her heart? Just as Lin Xian thought of this, Yunjian and Ce had already let Xiao Yunju and the other two out. Emo-san and Shuang also laughed and followed. You guys wait. Lin Xian wanted to interrupt, but just as she spoke, Yunjian and Ce had already walked out. When Shintalian saw this, her face darkened again. Her expression and mood were all displayed on her face. Let Xian play with them. The children's ages are close so they get along. Xian, hurry up and follow them. Shintalian pushed Lin Xian and gestured for her to follow Yunjian and Ce. When Lin Xian heard her mother say this, she hurriedly ran out to find Ce. Qin Yiru couldn't even get a word in edgewise. 2 sports cars were parked in front of the villa's main entrance. One was a Lamborghini, which belonged to Ce. The other was a Bugatti Veyron. This Bugatti Veyron was a new super sports car that Adam had just bought. It was the latest model, and only 10 were sold in the world. Chapter 834. We want to sit with Big Brother Emo-sun and Big Brother Wang Er. Xiao Yunju and the other two discussed for a while before running towards Adam's Bugatti Veyron. Hearing Xiao Yunju call him Big Brother Wang Er, Shuang couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. This nickname was randomly given to him by Adam, but Xiao Yunju and the other two really took it seriously and kept calling him that. Damn it, if he didn't wreck Adam's Bugatti Veyron today, he, Shuang, really wouldn't stop. Little Zhu, Big Brother's car can only seat 2 people, so you can only sit with your big brother Ce and big sister. Shuang looked at Xiao Yunju and said, Oh okay. Xiao Yunju and the other two were very sensible and well-behaved. This was because Adam's Bugatti Veyron didn't have a back seat, but Ce's Lamborghini did. Xiao Yunju and the other two very obediently walked towards Yunjian and Ce. However, Xiao Yunju wasn't very willing to sit with Yunjian and Ce. This was because Duanli said that their behavior, in the words of their classmate Little Hui, was like a third wheel. A child who was a third wheel wouldn't be able to grow tall. Xiao Yunju and the other two were still walking towards Yunjian and Ce, because Adam's Bugatti Veyron and Ce's Lamborghini were parked a little far from each other. Xiao Yunju and the other two were still a little far away from each other. Wait for me. My mom said to let us go together. Don't leave by yourself. Wait for me. At this moment, Lin Xian ran out from the house. Lin Xian's fat body trembled. Because of her short stature and fat body, Lin Xian looked like a lump of fat hanging on her body, and the trembling fat looked like it would fall off at any time. Because Lin Xian rushed out of the house, Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Duanya just happened to walk towards Yunjian and Ce from the side. Lin Xian, who rushed out of the house, bumped into Xiao Yunju and the other two. Actually, if Lin Xian stopped at this moment and let Xiao Yunju and the other two go first, they wouldn't have bumped into each other. However, seeing Yunjian and Ce walking over, Lin Xian became anxious. She saw Xiao Yunju and the other 3 walk over. She acted as if she didn't see them. She didn't know where her sister's use. She's to her to you to her to. S2's Xiao Yunju looked thin and weak, and there wasn't much meat on his body. On the other hand, Lin Xian was a big fatty through and through. After being hit by Lin Xian, Xiao Yunju lost his balance and fell to the ground. Fortunately, Xiao Yunju's hands were fast. He reacted quickly and stretched out his hand to support himself on the ground, so his little face didn't hit the ground and bleed. However, Xiao Yunju's hand rubbed against the cement on the ground. The moment Xiao Yunju fell, he even screamed in pain. Therefore, one could imagine how painful it was without seeing it. Yunjian was standing at least 10 meters away, and Lin Xian's collision was sudden. Who would have thought that she would really bump into a child? Therefore, when Yunjian saw it, Xiao Yunju had already been hit by Lin Xian. Yunju, are you okay? Duanli was so scared that she quickly helped Xiao Yunju up with Duanya. I'm fine. I'm a man. It's okay. Xiao Yunju frowned from the pain, but he still forced himself to speak. However, when Xiao Yunju turned his palm over, Yun Jian and Ce, who were walking over, saw that his palm was bleeding from the friction on the ground. The pebbles on the ground were stuck to Xiao Yunju's broken hand, and blood immediately gushed out. Chapter 835. Feeling Yun Jian's gaze, Lin Xian shuddered violently, and her entire body trembled. "Ah, Yunju, you're injured, you're bleeding," Duanli shouted. Then, she fearfully took out a tissue from her trouser pocket and gently wiped Xiao Yunju's hand. Duanli called Xiao Yunju from the beginning. For Duanli, the most intimate way to address Xiao Yunju was to call him by his name. Hiss. Feeling Duanli using the tissue to wipe his bleeding hand, Xiao Yunju couldn't help but gasp. Pain, that was inevitable. Because just now, in order to prevent his entire body from falling to the ground, Xiao Yunju had stretched out a hand and fiercely received all the pressure of gravity. In other words, when he fell, the gravity of his entire body was supported by his hand. Xiao Yunju didn't let his head fall to the ground, which was already very good. Feeling Yun Jian's murderous gaze, Lin Xian shrunk her neck, but still pretended to be righteous and said to Yun Jian, Is there a need to do this? It's not like you're going to die. Who hasn't experienced bumps and bruises before?" Lin Xian's words made Yun Jian's gaze sharpen. However, Yun Jian didn't have the time to take revenge on Lin Xian for Xiao Yunju. Emo-san, who ran over from afar, saw this and said to Yun Jian habitually, "I'll go get the first aid kit." With that, Emo-san walked home. At this moment, Yun Jian had already silently squatted down to check on Xiao Yunju's injury. The silence was the precursor to Yun Jian's anger. The quieter it was, the greater Yun Jian's latent anger. Ce also squatted down beside Yun Jian. Lin Xian watched from the side, and her envy grew stronger. "Xiaozhu, other than your hand, does it hurt anywhere else?" Yun Jian reached out and pulled Xiao Yunju's hand to take a look and asked. "It doesn't hurt anywhere else," Xiao Yunju said as he stood up with his uninjured hand held by Ce. Ce patted the dust off Xiao Yunju's butt. At this time, Emo-san quickly took out the medical kit from the house and ran over. Qin Yiru, who was in the room, saw Emo-san going back to the room to get the first aid kit. She was shocked and hurried out to see what had happened. As soon as Qin Yiru came out, Lin Jiahao and Shintalian followed. At this time, Yun Jian had already applied medicine for Xiao Yunju. Yun Jian cleaned the abrasions on Xiao Yunju's palms and applied a band-aid. She bandaged the wounds to prevent them from being infected by bacteria. "Sister, I'm fine. It doesn't hurt anymore." Xiao Yunju was afraid that she would worry, so he waved his hand as if to prove that he really didn't hurt anymore. "Okay." Yun Jian nodded, and then put everything back into the first aid kit. Emo-san ran errands and helped Yun Jian put the first aid kit back. At this time, Yun Jian had already stood up and looked at Lin Xian from the corner of her eyes. Lin Xian was shocked by Yun Jian's gaze again. Then Lin Xian shouted at Yun Jian righteously, "WH, what are you doing? I didn't do it on purpose." Lin Xian clearly did it on purpose. She saw Yun Jian and Ce standing next to the car and was about to get in. In a moment of panic, she wanted to chase after them. In the end, she didn't expect Xiao Yunju to also come over. At that time, she didn't even think, and directly bumped into Xiao Yunju. "You didn't do it on purpose?" Yun Jian raised her eyebrows. At this time, Qin Yiru, Lin Jiahao and Shintalian had already walked out of the house. Yun Jian went forward and in front of everyone, she gave Lin Xian a hard slap. This slap sent Lin Xian sprawling on the ground. Chapter 836. Yun Jian sneered after she slapped Lin Xian. She returned what Lin Xian did to Yunju exactly as she did to Lin Xian. Yun Jian's slap was swift, accurate and vicious. Qin Yiru and the others who came out of the house saw it as well. In fact, Yun Jian did it for Lin Jiahao and Shintalian to see. "Xian Xian? Xian Xian." As expected, Lin Jiahao and Shintalian saw it and ran over screaming. Lin Jiahao's expression was normal, but Shintalian looked as if Lin Xian was almost beaten to death by Yun Jian. She was no different from a guardian. I don't know what my Xian did to you. What are you doing?" Lin Jiahao's attitude towards Yun Jian was always polite. However, Yun Jian was the director of new crews. Because of that, Lin Jiahao had to be polite to Yun Jian if he wanted to use Yun Jian. Shen Tilian did not care about that. She had been protecting Lin Xian since she was young. When she saw Lin Xian fall to the ground after being slapped by Yun Jian, she could not hold it in anymore. My Xian Xian is so obedient. Why did you hit her? Xian Xian is such a smart child. What if you hit her and she becomes stupid? She's going to be a top student in the university in the future. Shen Tilian shouted at Yun Jian. Lin Jiahao and Shen Tilian were helping Lin Xian. Lin Xian, who was sitting on the ground and pretending to be pitiful, could not help but give Yun Jian a provocative look. At that moment, Qin Yiru walked over with a frown. Xiao Yunju was smart. When he saw Qin Yiru walking over, Xiao Yunju extended his hand, which had a band-aid on it. Mother Qin, she pushed me just now and I fell. My hand is covered in blood. She didn't apologize, so they scolded sister. Sister was helping me, Xiao Yunju said as he pointed at Lin Xian. Then, in order to prove the injury on his hand, he even took off the band-aid. As soon as the band-aid was removed, the wound on Xiao Yunju's hand was immediately revealed. Xiao Yunju was still a kid. Even though he wasn't injured, the wound on Xiao Yunju's hand was enough to make everyone gasp. Isn't it just a small injury? Was there a need to make a fuss? Isn't it normal for children to get injured? We played in the fields every day when we were young. How could we not get injured? Shen Tilian said confidently. That level of confidence was comparable to Lin Xian's. Lin Jiahao, on the other hand, had more foresight than Shen Tilian and Lin Xian. He glared fiercely at Shen Tilian, then said to Yun Jian, "It's all my daughter and wife's fault. Xian Xian is still young and doesn't know any better. Please forgive her." As he spoke, Lin Jiahao chuckled and said, "We're family, so there's no need to be so polite. Besides, Xian Xian will be following you to work in your company in the future." Yun Jian didn't agree to work in new crews with Lin Xian. In fact, Yun Jian had rejected her outright at that time. However, Lin Jiahao didn't take Yun Jian's rejection seriously at all. Or rather, he ignored Yun Jian's words at that time. Yun Jian chuckled softly. She had never seen such shameless people like Lin Jiahao and his family. Therefore, Yun Jian didn't hold back. "I think I wasn't clear enough. Let me make it clear here. New crews can't afford to hire someone like your daughter. It's impossible in this lifetime, so you can go back." Chapter 837. Yun Jian should have been angry long ago. Once she was angry, she would not be wasting her breath on Lin Jiahao and the rest. Instead, it would be a matter of life and death. However, Yun Jian did not do it out of respect for Qin Yiru. After all, Lin Jiahao was Qin Yiru's relative from her maternal side. Qin Yiru had been tolerating Qin Yiru earlier, which meant that Qin Yiru definitely cared about it. Of course, Lin Jiahao and his family had already crossed her bottom line. Lin Xian had even hurt Xiao Yunju. Yun Jian had also given Lin Xian a slap. However, this matter could not be called even. Yun Jian's character had always been that if someone offended her, she would return it 1,000 times over. This was Yun Jian's last line. If Lin Jiahao were to leave now, she would reluctantly give Qin Yiru some face, and this matter would be over. However, leave? Didn't we agree to go for a picnic together? Why did you change your mind at the last minute? Lin Jiahao refused to leave since he did not get anything out of it. Moreover, Yun Jian had just said that she would not allow his Xian Xian to enter new crews. Did that mean that he had given Qin Yiru his red packet today for nothing? Inside that red packet was the $50 that he had painstakingly earned. Lin Jiahao's red packet was not considered a lot in 1999 in Country Z. Lin Jiahao did not have the heart to give Qin Yiru more red packets. Of course, for someone like Lin Jiahao, if he gave out this red packet without any return, he would definitely feel indignant. Moreover, Lin Jiahao's original intention was for Lin Xian and Yun Jian to enter new crews and earn big bucks. Upon hearing Lin Jiahao's, "We agreed to go for a picnic together," Yun Jian laughed out loud on the spot. "Did we agree to go for a picnic together? You're not welcome in our house since you're uninvited." At this point, Yun Jian didn't want to argue with Lin Jiahao anymore. What's more, Lin Xian had injured Xiao Yunju. At this thought, Yun Jian's eyes sharpened. She turned sideways to look at Lin Jiahao and his family. Her cold eyes were hard to ignore. She said coldly to Lin Jiahao and the other two, "I'll give you a choice. Get out of my sight immediately." Yiru, look. Our families are relatives. Relatives should help each other regardless of status. But what about your daughter? How could your daughter speak like that? You're actually telling us to get lost? Shintalian panicked when she heard that. She still wanted Yun Jian to help her Xian get rich. And the result? Yun Jian actually wanted them to scram. Moreover, their family had given Qin Yiru 50 yuan as a gift. If Yun Jian really didn't help them, would that not be a waste of money? Lin Jiahao and Shintalian's first thought was to let Qin Yiru speak for them, since they could not win an argument with Yun Jian. To put it bluntly, it was quite embarrassing for Qin Yiru to speak now. After all, if Qin Yiru helped Yun Jian, she would appear petty. However, if Qin Yiru helped Lin Jiahao and Shintalian, would she not be helping others instead of her own daughter, who was in the right? Lin Jiahao and Shintalian's actions were to force Qin Yiru into a corner. Naturally, Yun Jian would not force Qin Yiru into a corner. You're not scramming, are you? Yun Jian smirked maliciously. Qin Yiru's heart skipped a beat as well. However, Qin Yiru did not plan to interfere in this matter. She had been bullied by her relatives for half her life. If she did not allow her daughter to fight back, what kind of behavior would that be? Then, all of you can go to hell. After Yun Jian finished speaking, she strode forward and stood where Lin Xian was. Then, she extended her leg and kicked Lin Xian's knee hard. Lin Xian suddenly felt a piercing pain. Her knee went limp from Yun Jian's kick, and she collapsed like a huge mountain. Chapter 838. Lin Xian's knee was kicked by Yun Jian. Her knees went soft, and she knelt down. Since they were kneeling on a cement road, Lin Xian wasn't wearing much. Therefore, when Lin Xian knelt down, a hole was torn in her pants. Xian, my baby! Shintalian shouted, and quickly ran over to help Lin Xian up. Mom, my knee hurts, it hurts. Lin Xian said pitifully, but in the end, she was still pulled up by Shintalian. Everyone looked over, and saw that there was a hole in Lin Xian's pants. Because Lin Xian's pants were not very sturdy, the hole was torn. There were many pebbles on the cement road, and the pebbles rubbed against Lin Xian's knees. Just like the injury on Xiao Yunju's palm, blood gushed out of Lin Xian's knees. Blood! Mom, blood! Lin Xian saw the blood flowing out of her knees, and she shouted loudly in pain. When Shintalian heard that, she squatted in front of Lin Xian and shouted with concern, "My baby, my sweetheart! Mom, huff, and it won't hurt anymore, huff." As she spoke, Shintalian blew a few times exaggeratedly. "It's all her fault. It's all because of her that I got hurt." As Lin Xian spoke, she immediately pointed at Yun Jian. Shintalian also turned around hatefully. She was about to speak up for her daughter, when Yun Jian's voice rang out calmly. "You are children who grew up in the fields. Which day do you not get hurt?" Yun Jian's voice was laced with mockery. As she spoke, Yun Jian added, "So what's so scary about such a small injury to you?" The person who said that she grew up in the fields was Shintalian. Yun Jian returned the words back to Shintalian in its original form. This made Shintalian, who was about to speak, immediately shut her mouth. Wasn't this slapping her own face? However, for someone as thick-skinned as Shintalian, how could she shut up just because of Yun Jian's words? How is this the same? Was this a minor injury? Xian had such a serious fall. There's already so much blood. Shintalian argued. Really? Yun Jian smiled wickedly. Then, in front of Shintalian and the others, she reached into her clothes and took out the butterfly knife. "Then I'll do a good deed and let all of you bleed dry," Yun Jian said as she swung her butterfly knife. Yun Jian held the butterfly knife in her hand and played with it skillfully. Seeing this, Shintalian, Lin Jiahao, and Lin Xian all swallowed hard. "Even if you're the director of new crews, you can't kill us. Because killing is against the law." Shintalian felt that Yun Jian's gaze and actions didn't seem to be joking, so she reminded her. This Yun Jian was too scary. Xintilian and the other two would rather leave than stay here any longer. Do you want to try? Yin Jian swung her butterfly knife and suddenly walked towards Xintilian. She forced Xintilian to take 2 steps back. However, her inexplicable pride made Xintilian muster the courage to reply. Do you dare? Do you still think you have someone protecting you? I'm protecting her. What can you do? When Xintilian said this, Siyi's mellow male voice suddenly rang out. His voice had a hint of magnetism that could mesmerize people without them noticing. Chapter 839. Siyi's words were so cold that they could make the surrounding temperature drop by a few degrees. Mo-san, kill these 3 noisy people. Siyi did not bother to reason at all. Once he made his move, it was a straightforward kill word. The word kill made Xintilian and the other 2 shudder. He was not joking. He was serious. Lin Jiahao, Xintilian, and Lin Xian were so frightened that their faces turned pale. We can leave for the picnic immediately after killing these 3 people. Alright, let me do such a simple thing. Shuang volunteered himself rather casually. He had only taken 2 steps when Shuang turned to look at Xiao Yunju and the other 2. You 3 turn around. Be good and I'll buy you lollipops later. Xiao Yunju and the other 2 turned their backs at Shui Ying's words. Xiao Qizhi, let's turn around quickly. That way, Brother Wang Er will buy us lollipops. Xiao Yunju pulled Duanli while Duanli pulled Duanya. The 3 of them turned around happily. Everything was so natural. It was as if killing a person was not a big deal at all. It was not just Xintilian and Lin Xian. Under such an atmosphere, even Lin Jiahao was scared. Don't, we were wrong. Lin Jiahao said fearfully. As he spoke, Lin Jiahao turned around and slapped Xintilian hard before begging Yun Jian for mercy. It's all this B***TCH's fault. I'll teach her a lesson when we get back. As he spoke, Lin Jiahao turned to Qin Yiru. Yiru, you can't joke about this. Cousin is old now. He'll be frightened. As Lin Jiahao spoke, he pulled his wife and daughter to their feet and said to Qin Yiru, Cousin, I'm not feeling well today so I'll be leaving first. I'll visit again another day. As he spoke, Lin Jiahao hurriedly pulled Xintilian and the limping Lin Xian away from the place. Stop. Did I say you can leave? Yun Jian's voice rang out at this moment, her tone carrying a hint of shock that could not be ignored. Lin Jiahao and the other 2, who were about to leave, stopped in their tracks. Lin Jiahao heard Yun Jian's voice and was about to turn around and say something. Whoosh! A tiny blade flew past Lin Jiahao's cheek, brushing past his skin. Even though Lin Jiahao was a big man, he was still frightened by the sudden appearance of the blade. When Yun Jian's blade flew past Lin Jiahao's cheek, Xintilian and Lin Xian happened to turn their heads and see it. As a result, the 2 of them were so scared that their hair stood on end, and they couldn't speak for a long time. However, he heard Yun Jian's voice clearly again. Don't let me see you again. Relatives like you should never appear in front of my family. If I see you again, I will cut off your heads and dig out your hearts to feed the dogs. It had to be said that Lin Jiahao's family was the best of the best. In reality, there was no shortage of such people. If it were anyone else who met such relatives, even if they were in the right, they could only keep it to themselves and think that it was okay for them to be at a disadvantage. Just like Qin Yiru, however, who was Yun Jian. She would never allow anyone to cross her bottom line. Chapter 840. How could Lin Jiahao and his family not panic after being hit by Yun Jian's flying knife so accurately? How could they not be afraid? Lin Jiahao and his family were so scared that their faces turned pale. They even forgot their original intention and left as if they were running away. Seeing Lin Jiahao and his family leave, even Qin Yiru couldn't help but feel relieved and let out a sigh of relief. Little Zhu, are you alright? Qin Yiru looked at Xiao Yunju and asked. Mama Qin, I'm fine. It doesn't hurt. Xiao Yunju turned around and smiled at Qin Yiru. What an obedient child. Qin Yiru thought to herself. Then, Xiao Yunju and the other 2 pestered Shuang for lollipops. Shuang didn't have any objections when they pestered him for lollipops. But why did they keep calling him Big Brother Wang heir? Those who didn't know better would think that he was a bastard. Was he really such a bastard? He was the leader of an Hun after all. If word of this got out, tsk. Mom, if Lin Jiahao and his family dare to come here again, don't go easy on them. Yin Jian walked up to Qin Yiru and said. To be honest, Qin Yiru really thought that Lin Jiahao's distant relatives had changed for the better. They even gave her money. To be honest, it didn't matter if Lin Jiahao gave her money or not. Qin Yiru wasn't a greedy person at all. Qin Yiru thought that her distant relatives had changed for the better. That was why she was happy. But this happiness would eventually turn into a bubble. She should be as disappointed as she was looking forward to it at the beginning. At this moment, a military jeep drove into the area. Gu Junjian got out of the car the moment he got out. I just went to the market to buy some barbecue ingredients. I put them in the car. We'll be driving there later anyway. Gu Junjian said as he looked around. Where are they? Gu Junjian asked suspiciously. They're gone. Qin Yiru said. Then she explained everything that happened. I see. Haha, it's good that they're gone. Then these barbecue ingredients are ours. Gu Junjian shouted happily. Then, Gu Junjian went into the house and moved all the barbecue equipment into the military jeep. The jeep led the way, followed by the Lamborghini, followed by the Bugatti Veyron. They drove. The barbecue location have been chosen. Despite the unpleasant episode with Lin Jiahao's family, the group was still happy along the way. Xiao Yunju and the other two followed Yun Jian and Ce into the same car. Gu Junjian and Qin Yiru were the only ones left in the military jeep. However, Gu Junjian was not a flirtatious person. Hence, the journey was smooth and there were no hiccups. The barbecue location was by the Nilong River in the countryside. Nilong River was a small stream located in Gua village. There were still a few kilometers of mountain roads from Gua village. Since it was spring, the season for spring outing, the stream of Nilong River was surrounded by trees and boulders. It was a sacred place for barbecue that everyone in Longmen City knew. Therefore, when Gu Junjian parked the car there, he saw many people setting up all sorts of barbecue equipment along the bank of Nilong River. Chapter 841. There were already a lot of people barbecuing by the Nilong River. When they saw a military jeep stop by the roadside with two supercars behind it, they couldn't help but turn their heads to look. No matter what era people were in, they always had a certain amount of admiration for the rich. Moreover, cars in this era weren't as popular as they were in the modern era. Not to mention supercars, even ordinary cars were quite rare. Therefore, when the two supercars, Bugatti Veyron and Lamborghini, drove to the roadside, the people barbecuing by the Nilong River all looked over. Barbecue! Barbecue! We can eat barbecue! Xiao Yunju, Duan Li, and Duanya were helped out by Yin Jian from the back seat to the front seat. Xiao Yunju and the other two looked very excited. After Mo Sun and Shuang got out of the car, they walked toward the military jeep. The two of them consciously helped Gu Junjian and Qin Yiru carry the barbecue tools and ingredients. Xiao Yunju, Duan Li, and Duanya ran toward the Nilong River as soon as they got out of the car. The three of them were very lively and very happy. After Qin Yiru got out of the car, she saw Xiao Yunju and the other two running toward the Nilong River. She couldn't help but shout to Xiao Yunju and the other two. Be careful. Don't play in the water that's too deep. Pay attention to your safety. Mother Qin, we know. Xiao Yunju responded happily, and then ran over with Duan Li and Duanya. Yin Jian and Ce were already standing by the roadside at this time. Ce saw Qin Yiru moving the heavy barbecue oven and walked over. Let me do it. As Ce spoke, he easily took the barbecue oven from Qin Yiru's hand. His tall figure followed Gu Junjian to the Nilong River. Qin Yiru looked quite heavy when she moved the barbecue oven, but Ce took it from her and moved it quite easily. However, Ce's actions caused Mo Sun and Shuang to be slightly stunned. Since when did the leader of the Inhun organization, the young master of Pavilion Lung, learn how to move things? Hey, take care. Qin Yiru replied when she saw Ce taking her things and moving them over. Qin Yiru found Ce more and more pleasing to the eye. The more she looked at Ce, the more she liked her. She now felt that the best thing she had ever done was to entrust Yunjian to Ce. She used to think that Ce was born into a wealthy family, and was born with an air of arrogance. But now, Qin Yiru could not wait to marry her Xiao Jian off right now. Yunjian also helped to get some barbecue ingredients. They busied themselves for a while before setting up a barbecue site by the Nilong River. Next was the barbecue. The group was already seated on the pebbled beach. At this time, the stool brought from home came in handy. Gu Junjian took the lead and laid out all the ingredients for the barbecue. Yunjian sat on the stools while Qin Yiru processed the ingredients when a sweet female voice rang. "Hello, may I ask?" Hearing this sweet female voice, everyone present turned their eyes to look at her. Ce was the only one who did not even look up. His attention was on Yunjian the entire time. Yunjian looked over as well. "May I ask if you brought any salt? My classmates and I came to Nilong River for a barbecue, but we realized that we didn't bring any when we got here. If you have extra, can you lend us some?" Chapter 842. The girl was wearing an emerald green floral dress. Her appearance was quite bright and beautiful, and she had the kind of appearance that would make people fall in love with her. Moreover, this girl looked clean and pretty. Her appearance was quite pleasing to the eye. "Of course, I happened to bring a whole bag of salt today. Young lady, if you are in a hurry, you can use it first." Qin Yiru nodded and smiled at the girl, then took out a whole bag of salt and handed it to the girl. Thank you so much." The girl in the emerald green floral dress bowed twice to Qin Yiru to express her gratitude. Then she turned around and walked back to where her friends were. Qin Yiru smiled. Yunjian was sitting next to him. The help on this kind of journey might only be a little bit of salt to him, but it might be a great help to the girl just now. "Lan, did you borrow the salt?" When the girl in the emerald green floral dress walked back to the group of boys and girls, a girl raised her head and asked the girl in the floral dress. Yes. The girl in the emerald green floral dress called Lan nodded. At this moment, Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian had already skillfully laid out the barbecue ingredients. Gu Junjian also started a charcoal fire. "We can start barbecuing now. Put whatever you want to eat in here," Gu Junjian said with a smile. Gu Junjian had not been as happy as he was today for a long time. He also had not experienced such a warm feeling for a long time. For Gu Junjian, after he divorced his ex-wife only left him a son. His son did not get along well with him, so he went abroad to study. Gu Junjian was very successful in everything he did in his life, but there was one thing that he failed at, and that was dealing with family relationships. Although Yunjian and the others were not his biological children, after spending so much time together, even if his heart was frozen, he still had some feelings for them. Let alone Gu Junjian. "I want to eat mutton skewers," Xiao Yunju said happily. "I'm the same as Yunju." Duanli blinked her small eyes and smiled easily. I want to eat rice cakes." Duanya rubbed her hands together tightly as she raised her little eyes and said. At first, Duanya did not speak. However, under Qin Yiru's care, she could already speak a few words. However, she spoke softly, as if she was afraid that her words would be refuted. It seemed like Duan Shi had given Duanya a huge blowback then. But now Duan Shi was sentenced to 2 years in prison. Good. I'll roast it for you kids first. Gu Junjian laughed twice. Then he picked up the ingredients, smeared them with oil, and placed them on the oven. Yunjian narrowed her eyes. The scorching sun shone down at an angle. Because there were no trees here, the sunlight shone directly on her face and body. I'm here to return your salt." It was also at this moment that the girl called Lan, who was wearing a green floral dress, came back. She was holding a bag of salt that was not used much. As Qin Yiru was still busy, the girl saw Yunjian sitting on the bench, so she walked over and said to Yunjian, Yunjian nodded and took the salt from the girl. "Thank you so much. Fortunately, you were willing to lend us your salt. Otherwise, we wouldn't know what to do." After saying that, the girl did not leave. Instead, she thanked Yunjian. Chapter 843. Just as the girl spoke to Yun Jian, her friends were already calling for her. Lan Lan, come quick. The barbecue is ready. The girl's friends were calling her. Hearing her friend calling her, the girl took 2 steps back, but could not help turning back to look at Yun Jian with a smile before she said, I'm sorry, Yun Jian, but I'm sorry. I won't thank you. I'm Ning Lan Lan. The girl who called herself Ning Lan Lan winked at Yun Jian as she spoke. In fact, the salt was lent to Ning Lan Lan by Qin Yiru. It was apparent from their appearances that Yun Jian and Qin Yiru looked alike. It was obvious that they were mother and daughter. Therefore, Ning Lan Lan thought it did not matter whether she returned the salt to Yun Jian or to Qin Yiru. They had only met on a short journey, so Yun Jian did not mind it, but she still smiled faintly at Ning Lan Lan. Many people would remember the help they received on a journey like this for life. Of course, they would help if they could. After all, they might run into difficulties or need help when they went out to play. Xiaozhu chestnut, Yaya, it's time to eat. Gu Junjian cooked a few skewers skillfully and passed them to Xiao Yunju and his friends. Wow, it smells so good. Xiao Yunju exclaimed and took his 3 mutton skewers. Usually, only a few skewers could be cooked at a time during barbecue, unless the oven they brought was big enough. Usually, however, the skewers were slowly grilled in rounds. Usually, only a few skewers could be grilled in one round, so they were given to the children to enjoy first. The adults were gluttonous, but they would hold it in for the time being. Alright, I'll grill Xiao Jian and Ai next. As Gu Junjian spoke, he smeared some of the prepared barbecue ingredients with oil and placed them in the oven. Xiao Yunju grabbed 3 skewers of mutton. He looked at Ce, Yunjian, Mo-san and Shuang. Brother Mo-san, Brother Wang Air, this mutton skewer is for the 2 of you. Xiao Yunju grabbed the mutton skewer and handed it to Shuang. A mutton skewer for 2 people? Then wouldn't that mean that his saliva would be stained? But if he tried to pull it off, his hands would be greasy. Haha, thank you, Xiaozhu. Shuang took the mutton skewer from Xiao Yunju and said with a smile. After Xiao Yunju walked away, he went up to Mo-san and said with an evil smile, Little Mo-san, we have to share this mutton skewer. Do you want to bite first or should I? As he spoke, Shuang revealed a mischievous smile as he leaned closer to Mo Senior. You eat. Mo-san was a serious person, so he pushed the mutton skewer back to Shuang as soon as Shuang finished his joke. Mo-san even moved to the side to distance himself from Shuang. Shuang guffawed and swallowed the mutton skewer in a few bites. By then, Xiao Yunju had already come to Yun Jian and Ce with another mutton skewer. He picked the bigger one out of the 2 remaining mutton skewers in his hand and passed it to Yun Jian and Ce. Jie Ce Gij, this is for you guys. Xiao Yunju said, and passed the mutton skewer to Yun Jian. Ce watched as Yun Jian took the mutton skewer from Xiao Yunju with a faint smirk on his lips. In that smirk, there seemed to be a hint of an unknown conspiracy. Xiao Yunju gave the mutton skewer to Yun Jian, and only had one left for himself. Chapter 844. Yun Jian took the mutton skewer from Xiao Yunju in a daze. After Xiao Yunju ran off to look for Duan Li and Duanya, Yun Jian finally reacted. She held the mutton skewer in her hand and turned to hand it to Ce. You can have it. As she spoke, Yun Jian handed the mutton skewer to Ce. I'm not hungry. You can have it. Ce smiled and replied softly. When Yun Jian heard him say that he wasn't hungry, she didn't force it. She held the mutton skewer in front of her and chewed it before swallowing it. When she was halfway through the mutton skewer, Yun Jian felt a large hand holding her small one. She was slightly stunned. Then this large hand led her small one to move the remaining half of the mutton skewer in front of him. Ce took a bite, but wasn't in a hurry to eat it. His handsome and flawless face was very close to hers. The corners of Yun Jian's mouth twitched. She was suddenly slightly stunned. Looking at Ce's slightly curved lips and handsome face that couldn't be ignored, Yun Jian's expression changed. Didn't you say that you didn't want it? Feeling Ce's large hand, Yun Jian's face flushed red. As she spoke, she moved the mutton skewer back from Ce's lips. Then she wasn't afraid that Ce had already eaten the mutton skewer. She quickly finished the mutton skewer. After finishing the mutton skewer, she pursed her lips and smiled triumphantly at Ce. In the past, Yunjian wouldn't have done such a thing. She had never let down her guard around anyone before. But this time, she didn't know what was wrong with her. She actually made such a childish gesture of victory in front of Ce. Just as Yunjian thought of this, her face turned pink. I'm going to help my mother. Yunjian looked at Qin Yiru and saw that Qin Yiru was cutting meat and skewering it with bamboo skewers. In order to ease the awkwardness, Yunjian stood up and walked towards Qin Yiru. As soon as Yunjian stood up, Ce could feel her faint fragrance leaving him. Yunjian's body had a light and pleasant scent. If one didn't smell it carefully, one wouldn't be able to smell it. Ce was already familiar with this smell. So when Yunjian stood up and walked towards Qin Yiru, he reached out and grabbed Yunjian's wrist. Yunjian was just about to walk towards Qin Yiru when Ce grabbed her right wrist. Yunjian was slightly stunned. She could see that not far away, Qin Yiru and Gejunjian were talking and laughing with their backs facing her. One was cutting and skewering meat, while the other was barbecuing meat. However, just as Yunjian saw this, Ce grabbed her right wrist and pulled her back. With this pull, Ce didn't pull her back to her original seat. Instead, he pulled Yunjian to sit on his lap. His lap. Ce sat cross-legged on the bench with his slender legs. After pulling Yunjian to sit on his lap, he reached out his well-defined hand and held on to Yunjian. At this moment, Yunjian and Ce were in a position where one was on top of the other. The only difference was that Ce was sitting on the bench, while Yunjian was sitting on Ce's lap. Yunjian's but was coincidentally pressed against one of his prideful areas. Even though Yunjian had never done anything between men and women, she could feel that Ce's part was boiling hot. Aroused. Chapter 845. This wasn't the first time she sat on his lap. The last time Ce pulled her to sit on his lap, it was at home. However, this time, they were in a crowded place. She wasn't a child anymore. Anyone who saw her would probably misunderstand. Moreover, it wasn't just the crowd at the Nilong River. The Nilong River had beautiful scenery and rare forest scenery. The beauty of nature was presented here. In addition, the water of the Nilong River wasn't muddy. Instead, it was so clear that one could see the bottom. The color of the water was the dark green of nature. Now, because of all kinds of pollution, natural scenery was rarely seen. The scenery here could be considered very extraordinary. Therefore, there were many elderly people from Gua village and nearby villages who came here for a stroll. The Nilong River was full of people who were focused on eating barbecue. Therefore, no one saw Yunjian sitting on Ce's lap. However, there were many people from other villages who came here for a stroll. Moreover, Yunjian and Ce were near the road. At this moment, two old grannies happened to pass by. The two old grannies walked quickly, as if they were regular visitors who came here for a stroll every day. However, when the two old grannies passed by, they happened to see Yunjian sitting on Ce's lap. One of the grannies, who looked tall and thin and sturdy, suddenly saw this scene and was so shocked that she froze. The other old granny was also slightly shocked when she saw her old friend suddenly stop in her tracks. However, the tall and thin old granny pointed in Yunjian's direction and shouted, "Oh my God, oh my God! Young people these days really don't know shame. It's really immoral." In broad daylight, they actually, the old granny's words were unbearable. The other old granny turned her head to look. Oh my God, they actually did such a thing in broad daylight. How dare they? How dare they? With that, the two old grannies quickly ran away. Yunjian was sitting with her back to the road, so she couldn't see the two old grannies running by. Although the two old grannies spoke very softly, Yunjian could clearly hear what they were saying. He was actually seen. Therefore, Yunjian's face became even redder. "Hurry up and let me get up," Yunjian whispered to Ce behind her as she struggled to get up. "Xiaojian, don't move," Ce grumbled, pressing Yunjian down to prevent her from standing up. When Yunjian didn't move, he didn't feel stuffy. But when Yunjian moved, he felt as if he had just taken a hot shower. That feeling was as if some kind of desire had been stimulated in an instant. If they were not in this place, Yun Jian would have moved a few more times. What about waiting for her to reach adulthood? That was all bullshit. He would definitely eat her up first. Even at this moment, when he thought of the men who had shown their love to Yun Jian, even though Yun Jian had not paid any attention to them, but as soon as he thought of this, he couldn't wait to take Yun Jian for himself. Siyi's low voice made Yun Jian's heart skip a beat. Yun Jian was really afraid that Siyi would do something in front of everyone, so she dared not move at all. It was just that a certain part of Siyi's body was hard against her, causing Yun Jian's cheeks to grow redder. Emo's son and Shuang were very sensitive. They had seen Yun Jian in Siyi's position since the beginning, and both of them had their backs facing Yun Jian and Siyi, pretending that they knew nothing. Xiao Jianae, the skewers are ready. Come and eat. Qing Yura's voice rang again. Chapter 846. Some of the people around them were looking at Yun Jian and Siyi purely out of curiosity, while others who had nothing better to do were staring at Yun Jian and Siyi suspiciously with barbecue skewers in their hands. By the time everyone looked over, Yun Jian had already gotten down from Siyi's lap and was now standing beside Siyi. Yun Jian's fair cheeks were pinkish, adding a youthful beauty to her delicate features. Xiao Jian, Ae, come over and eat. Qing Yuru, who had turned around, called to Yun Jian and Siyi. Siyi then stood up, his tall figure reflecting a handsome aura that could not be ignored. Some of the people around them looked over, and many of them were mesmerized by Siyi's handsome face. Of course, most of them were just looking, not showing much admiration or possessiveness. No matter how handsome he was already taken. Siyi was already holding Yun Jian's hand as they came to the barbecue oven. Yun Jian had bought a little more barbecue ingredients today, because he thought that Lin Jiahao's family would be coming as well, so he had gone to buy more. In spite of it, all the barbecue ingredients were swept clean by the group during the afternoon barbecue. Not a single bit was wasted. Yun Jian packed up his stall in the end and used the water from Nilong River to extinguish the charcoal fire. After ensuring that the charcoal would not cause a fire, he packed up and prepared to head back. There were many people barbecuing near Nilong River, especially since it was spring and the season for spring excursions. Everyone was thinking about how and where to go. Coming to Nilong River to barbecue was undoubtedly everyone's first choice. They didn't need an entrance ticket. Another thing was that they could bring their own ingredients to barbecue and satisfy their taste buds. This was also a very important point. Siyi helped to put the items back into the jeep as he did when he came. In the end, everyone drove home. Since it was the weekend, Yun Jian had to go back to school at night. Of course, dinner was waived today as everyone was full from the barbecue they had in the afternoon. When they got home, Xiao Yunju, Siyi, and Siyi played together again. It was already 4:30 in the evening. Yun Jian carried her bag and went to school. When Yun Jian reached the door, Siyi was leaning against it. When he saw Yun Jian, he said, "Come back early. I'll wait for you tonight." There was a flirtatious meaning to his words, which reminded Yun Jian of Siyi pulling her to sit on his lap. Yun Jian's face instantly turned red. She carried her bag on one shoulder and did not look at Siyi. She wanted to walk past Siyi. At this moment, Qing Yuru and Yun Jian had already taken Xiao Yunju, Siyi, and Siyi away. As long as Xiao Yunju, Siyi, and Siyi were together, they could play wherever they wanted. Only Emo's son Shuang, Adam, and Lan Su were left at home. However, the four of them were upstairs. Yun Jian ignored him and walked out. Siyi furrowed his brows. His brows twitched slightly. Just as Yun Jian was about to step out of the house, Siyi grabbed Yun Jian's arm and pulled her back. He pressed Yun Jian against the door. Then, his warm breath gushed toward Yun Jian in the next second. He had been holding it in for a long time. Yun Jian had just blinked when she felt something cold on her lips. Siyi had already leaned over. She tossed and turned. Chapter 847. Adam covered Snow Eagle's mouth with his hand and winked at him, hinting that he should be quiet. Honestly speaking, Shuang wasn't someone who would be frightened. However, The scene of Ce kissing Yun Jian made Shuang feel surprised. When did the leader of an Hun group become so proactive? He even knew how to kiss a girl. Where did his aversion to women go? Did he feed it to the dogs? Adam was supported by Shuang to the staircase to watch the show. At this time, Lan Su had just returned to her room to take a shower. Lan Su was taking a shower in her room, while Emo's son had just returned to his room to study his new computer program. Shuang was the only one in Adam's room just now. Shuang and Adam had similar personalities, but Adam was more irritable in comparison. Although Adam's leg was limping, he was still able to walk with Shuang's support. Not to mention, how could someone like Adam, who loved to watch shows, miss such a good show? At the same time downstairs, the corners of Ce's brow arched, his ears twitching slightly. However, he didn't react. Instead, he pressed Yun Jian against the door and kissed her even more intensely. Without a doubt, Ce had heard Shuang's "wow" that he didn't manage to shout out. Yun Jian also heard the sound. However, she was pressed against the door by Ce and forcefully kissed, so she didn't resist. After being kissed so passionately, Yun Jian reached out and hugged Ce's head to stabilize herself. At this moment, the two bachelors who were secretly hiding at the stairs on the second floor were watching with their mouths wide open. As Adam and Shuang watched, they couldn't help but stare, not moving at all. "What are the two of you doing?" Suddenly, Emo Sen's voice came from behind. Adam and Shuang, who were hiding at the stairs on the second floor, leaned forward and steadied themselves. They almost accidentally rolled down the stairs. Shh. Adam made a silent gesture. He looked as if he was a thief. Emo's son walked over suspiciously. He didn't know if he didn't look, but when he did, he was shocked. Finally, Ce let go of Yun Jian. He looked at Yun Jian's red lips and couldn't help but feel refreshed. He had left his mark there. "I'll wait for you tonight." There was only Yun Jian's reflection in Ce's deep eyes. Other than her, there was nothing else in his eyes. Yun Jian replied. Then she said to Ce, "Let's go," and walked out of the door with a red face. It was only when Yun Jian walked out of the house that Ce turned to look at the second floor. "The three of you come down." Ce's words made the hearts of the three men standing at the top of the stairs skip a beat. Then Adam was helped down the stairs. Emo's son and Shuang followed closely behind. Emosen's condition was still okay. However, Adam and Shuang, who were hiding at the stairs on the second floor, felt as if there were 10,000 horses galloping in their hearts. Seeing Ce call out to them in a low voice, Adam and Shuang's hearts jumped nervously. Young master." Adam stuttered as he opened his mouth. "Is it very nice?" Ce's question shocked everyone present. "The gates of the Amazon forest are always open for the three of you." Ce looked at the three people in front of him and smiled wickedly. "Don't. Young master, I'm wrong, okay? I don't want to go to that damned place for the rest of my life." Adam immediately put on an expression of not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Chapter 848. Adam looked like he did not know whether to laugh or cry at once. Looking at Shuang who was beside him, he told Ce, "Young master, I just want Shuang to learn something. Look at him, he's been single for so long, and he still doesn't know anything. Are you sure you don't want to see?" Shuang was shocked by Adam's nonsense. Adam started to talk nonsense with Shuang again. They were fooling around, but it was undeniable that Adam and Shuang's friendship was very strong. While Adam and Shuang were fooling around, Emo's son also smiled and grinned. At this moment, Ce had already walked up to the second floor. Adam and Shuang, who were standing on the second floor, finally reacted. Adam was also slightly shocked. "Young master isn't angry anymore?" "Maybe," Shuang replied. Emo's son said, "Young master left without saying anything. Under normal circumstances, it means that he wants to send us to the Amazon forest." Adam and Shuang were speechless. "Emosen, do you have to be so honest?" If it was a normal day, Ce would really send Adam and the other two to the Amazon forest. Actually, the original intention of sending them to the Amazon forest wasn't to punish them. Ce wanted Adam Shuang and Mo's son to improve their strength. Yin Jian walked and quickly arrived at the school gate. It didn't take much time to walk from the school gate to the classroom. When she walked into the classroom, there weren't many people in the classroom. However, there were already a few people in the classroom. It wasn't time yet, so it wasn't strange that people hadn't arrived yet. Without Chen Xinyi and Zhang Xiaofeng this week, Yin Jian felt a little empty in her heart. However, Chen Xinyi was just recuperating and nothing happened. Chen Xinyi took a month's leave, but Zhang Xiaofeng only took a week's leave. Zhang Xiaofeng would probably return to school next week. Grandmaster, how is Chen Xinyi? Yin Jian had just placed her backpack on the desk in the classroom when a fat head popped up from the side. Zhang Jian looked at Yin Jian and asked Yin Jian, "Xinyi is fine now, you don't have to worry." Yin Jian said. She just remembered that she had promised Zhang Xiaofeng this morning. "Your master asked me to thank you on his behalf. If it wasn't for you that day, Xinyi wouldn't have gone to the hospital so quickly for treatment," Yin Jian said to Zhang Jian. "Oh, that's all. I'm just helping out. It's nothing." Being praised by Zhang Xiaofeng, especially by the killing god that he worshipped the most, Zhang Jian scratched his head in embarrassment. Yin Jian merely pursed her lips and smiled. When almost all the students in the class had arrived, it meant that class was about to start, and the teacher was about to arrive. Just as the bell rang for the first self-study period in the evening, their homeroom teacher, Miss Yu, walked in with her textbooks. The moment they saw their homeroom teacher, the rowdy students in the class quieted down immediately. "Good morning, students." Miss Yu clapped her hands on the podium, signaling for everyone to quiet down before she continued. "The teachers had an emergency meeting last Friday, and the principal mentioned two more important matters. I believe that all of you must know about the first matter. Spring is the season when all things come back to life, so this spring outing is inevitable. The school hasn't decided on the exact location yet. The higher-ups will inform you when the time comes, and I'll let you know immediately. There's another important matter. It's about the foreign language competition on Wednesday this week. This foreign language competition is the main topic of the teachers' meeting last week. It's a competition that was announced at the last minute. All the schools in Longmen City will gather and arrange all the students who are good at speaking together." Chapter 849. The principal also mentioned this foreign language competition during the meeting last Friday. Although the notice was given at the last minute, the school's higher-ups have expressed that they attach great importance to this foreign language competition. Later, I will select a few students from our class with excellent oral English to participate in this competition. Of course, if you have excellent English but poor oral English, you won't have a chance to participate in this competition. But students, don't be discouraged. There are many similar competitions. Now, I will announce the name list of students who will participate in the foreign language competition on Wednesday. The homeroom teacher, Teacher Yu, stood on the podium and said a lot. The students sitting below shook their heads, and some even yawned. A foreign language competition like this would never happen to them. Therefore, some people remained in a state of half-listening state. Teacher Yu announced the names of two students in the class. When she announced the third name, she deliberately glanced at Yin Jian. Then, Teacher Yu announced the last name with a smile. Yin Jian. There were a total of 3 places. Teacher Yu selected the 3 students with the best oral English. After announcing the names, Teacher Yu also mentioned that Chen Xinyi and Zhang Xiaofeng had applied for leave. As for Chen Xinyi and Zhang Xiaofeng, Teacher Yu only briefly told them about their leave. She did not mention the reason. Originally, Chen Xinyi was also one of the candidates for this foreign language competition. However, after such an incident, she could only stay at home for a while to recuperate. After saying these things, Teacher Yu returned to her office with her textbooks. For the foreign language competition, Grade 3 Class A, which was Yin Jian's class, only had 3 places. Yin Jian had 1. Without a doubt, Yin Jian's foreign language results were the best among the 3 of them. Her oral English was needless to say. Moreover, when she first came to Longmen First High School, The school arranged for her to study abroad. That was to study abroad as a foreign exchange student. Yunjian could still remember the place where she studied abroad. It was Yana High School in Countrywide. Back then, she had to have good oral English to go abroad. This time, it was a foreign language competition. Although she was not going abroad, oral English was still very important. It could be said that this foreign language competition was a competition of speaking. After class, without Chen Xini and Zhang Xiaofeng chattering, Yunjian felt a little uncomfortable. In the next few days, Yunjian was quite idle. Although he claimed to be free, he was actually pacing back and forth between school, home, Falcon Hall, and New Cruise. Sometimes he would go to the army to train for a while. After Chu Ning and the rest went to the military academy, Yunjian went to the military training camp without delay. Time passed quickly, and it was Wednesday morning in the blink of an eye. In the morning, Yunjian walked into the classroom with her backpack. She saw Zhang Jian staring at her in a daze. "Grandmaster, why are you still here? Didn't the teacher ask the three of you, who are going to participate in the competition, to gather at the school field earlier yesterday? It's almost 6 o'clock. Zhang Jian looked at Yunjian, as if he couldn't believe that Yunjian would be late. It was only then that Yunjian recalled that there was such a thing. Yesterday, teacher Yu had specially reminded the 3 students who were going to the foreign language competition on Wednesday to come to school earlier. They had to gather at the field at 5:35 in the morning, because the lead teacher would start counting the number of students. Chapter 850. Yunjian was never a forgetful person, nor was she a sleepy person. However, even though she was a full 25 minutes late, Yunjian did not show any signs of fear. Usually, if a high school student with good academic performance suddenly realized that he was late, and that he was late by nearly half an hour, he would definitely be scared to the point of breaking out in cold sweat. Even their steps would be shaky, and their hearts would tremble, afraid that they would be scolded by the teacher. However, even though Yunjian was late, she did not show the slightest hint of fear. With a fling of her arm, the bag in Yunjian's hand was flung from the door to her desk in a curve. The students in the class who saw this scene were all stunned, but they quickly reacted. After all, Yunjian was an advanced special forces soldier, and the killing god of Team Monarch. It was just a school bag, so she naturally did it quite smoothly. "Let's go." Yunjian's melodious voice was heard. Zhang Jian nodded after a slight pause. Yunjian then turned and left the classroom, running towards the field. Zhang Jian watched Yunjian's footsteps, and could not help but take a few more looks of admiration. "She's my grandmaster indeed. She's so cool," Zhang Jian exclaimed. A male classmate beside him slapped Zhang Jian's head hard and teased him. "What kind of luck do you have to acknowledge Yunjian as your grandmaster?" As he spoke, his eyes were filled with envy. Zhang Jian laughed and replied, "Luckily, I'm smart enough to acknowledge Zhang Xiaofeng as my master. Speaking of which, how dare you slap me?" Yunjian could not see what happened in the classroom. At that moment, Yunjian was already striding happily to the field. All the students who had gathered for the foreign language competition were already on the bus. When Yunjian walked over, the group of students who were already on the bus were still looking at her through the window. For a moment, Yunjian became the center of attention, the first student who was late. There were only a few students in each class who could participate in the foreign language competition, so it was natural that the students took it seriously. However, when they saw Yunjian's nonchalant attitude, they could not help but take a few more looks. "Student, which class are you from? What's your name? Do you know that you're late?" A bald male teacher saw Yunjian and jogged over, scolding Yunjian with a stern expression. If she was an ordinary student, she would have lowered her head and admitted her mistake after being scolded by this male teacher. However, Yunjian only raised her head slightly to look at him. "Grade 3 Class A Yunjian." With that, she made her way to the bus. There was only one bus parked on the field, and it was a multi-seater bus. In other words, this bus could seat a lot of people. There were not many students participating in the competition this time, and Class A was an important class, so they were given more seats. They were given 3 seats at once, while the other classes usually only had 1. Student Yunjian, wait! The bald male teacher saw that she did not pay attention to him, and was unhappy. The male teacher was a rather rigid teacher, who was inflexible. He had once thought that Yunjian's behavior was disrespectful to the teacher. Yunjian raised her eyebrows and turned around. Don't be late next time. The whole school is waiting for you. If you're late again, you won't have the chance to participate in this kind of competition in the future. These words made it sound like Yunjian was lucky to be able to participate in this competition. Chapter 851. Actually, the bus wasn't parked here to wait for Yunjian. The bus was parked here because it was supposed to depart after the designated time. Moreover, there were still some teachers who hadn't arrived yet. Usually, in the teacher's point of view, they would only allow themselves to be late, but not their students. If a teacher was late, they would just laugh it off. However, when a student was late, the teacher would harshly criticize the student's mistake. Some teachers would even use an unforgivable tone to criticize the student. Their crime was even more serious than a criminal on death row. Of course, if one was lucky enough to meet a good teacher, they wouldn't be criticized. Oh! After the bald male teacher finished speaking, Yunjian indifferently spat out a word. Then, Yunjian walked towards the bus. The bald male teacher had never seen a student like Yunjian. Seeing that his words were ignored by Yunjian once again, Yunjian had already walked towards the bus. The male teacher could only clench his teeth in hatred. She was a student from grade 3 Class A, right? How dare she disregard her teachers? When he returned, he would tell this student's form teacher to discipline this student properly. Just as the male teacher was staring at Yunjian's figure with hatred, Yunjian had already arrived at the entrance of the bus. She stepped on the 3 steps of the bus and easily walked into the bus. There was a female teacher on the bus who was managing the order. When she saw Yunjian get on the bus, the female teacher spoke very politely and courteously. Student, which class are you from? What's your name? The female teacher looked at Yunjian and spoke in a rather sweet voice. Although the female teacher's appearance wasn't very eye-catching, her sweet voice was refreshing to Yunjian. Class A Yunjian. Yunjian still replied indifferently. Alright, your seat is on the left of the 3rd row, by the window. The female teacher pointed at a window seat and said to Yunjian, these seats were all arranged by the school long ago, so there was no need to fight for seats. One had to admit that the teachers of Longmen Junior High School arranged things in an orderly manner. Yunjian nodded and walked towards where the female teacher indicated. There was another girl sitting beside Yunjian, but she kept quiet when she saw Yunjian walking over. The girl was quite good-looking, but she ignored Yunjian when she saw her. Yunjian did not like to pay attention to others either, so she did not speak to the girl along the way. The foreign language competition this time was held in Longmen City's Foreign Languages High School. The most famous junior and senior high schools in Longmen City were Longmen Junior High School and DE Senior High School respectively. The Foreign Languages High School had 2 departments, the Junior Department and the Senior Department. In other words, those who studied in junior high school and Foreign Languages High School could be promoted to senior high school. Of course, compared to the other schools to be mentioned to E Senior High School. S to be to say, each school of course. S to the school to the end, of course to the point to the school. Of course, many students in Foreign Languages High School knew languages that other schools did not know, such as Japanese, Korean and so on. The competition this time was a foreign language competition, so perhaps it was a coincidence that the competition venue was set up in Foreign Languages High School. Chapter 852. In addition to middle school students, there would also be high school students participating in the competition this time. However, Yunjian had already heard from her homeroom teacher that middle school students would only compete with middle school students, and high school students would only compete with high school students. The two schools had nothing to do with each other. Even the foreign language competition venue was not in the same place. Yun Jian was a day student, so she would go home every day. She guessed that her brother, Yun Yi, would definitely come to an event like today's. As Yun Yi was a boarding student, Yun Jian had not seen Yun Yi from the weekend until Wednesday, so she did not have the chance to ask if he would be participating in the competition today. Moreover, the foreign language competition venue was not the same for middle school and high school, so Yun Jian did not know if she would meet Yun Yi today. When they arrived at their destination, the female teacher who was in charge of the order said, "We're here. Students, get off the bus in an orderly manner. Don't rush when you get off the bus. Walk slowly one by one. Don't push or squeeze." The bus sent the students directly to the entrance of Foreign Languages High School. Looking at the huge signboard at the entrance of Foreign Languages High School, the students realized that they had arrived at the entrance of Foreign Languages High School. Right in front of them was a huge floor-to-ceiling signboard with 4 large stone words carved on it. Foreign Languages High School. "Students, follow me. You don't have to line up." The female teacher who was in charge of the order was standing below the bus. She was arranging things in an orderly manner. Only 3 students from Yun Jian's class were participating in the foreign language competition today. Other than Yun Jian, the other 2 students were girls. Moreover, the 2 girls were close to each other, and they did not usually greet or socialize with Yun Jian. Therefore, after Yun Jian got off the bus, she stood there alone. The people around her were all in groups. Students of this age rarely walked alone when they went out for competitions. Some students even thought that it was embarrassing to walk alone, as if they didn't have any friends. However, this situation did not happen to Yun Jian at all. Yun Jian had an excellent temperament. Even if she stood there silently, she would attract the attention of the people around her. At this moment, Yun Jian had her hands in her trouser pockets. She stood there lazily with her thumbs hooked on the sides of her trouser pockets. Right now, the morning sun was shining on Yun Jian at a slanted angle. No matter how one looked at it, Yun Jian was like a beauty bathing in the sun. However, at this moment, Yun Jian carried a trace of unapproachable aura, which made everyone present unconsciously blink. After the female teacher did a head count, she led everyone into Foreign Languages High School and headed straight for the competition venue, the junior high school. Yun Jian followed the group all the way forward. When they arrived at the competition venue, everyone was stunned by the lineup in front of them. The people standing in front of him could be considered as a sea of people. After all the students from junior high schools in Longmen City, who were proficient in English, were gathered here. Of course, this was only limited to junior high school students. As for the senior high school students, it was on the other end. Yun Jian planned to go to the senior high school venue after her competition to see if she could find Yun Yi. Just as Yun Jian thought about it, a surprised female voice came from her left. "Hey, it's you. Are you here for the competition too?" Yun Jian's eyelid twitched at the voice and she turned to look. Chapter 853. Yun Jian was slightly surprised when she saw Ning Lanlan. After all, Ning Lanlan had come to borrow some salt when they barbecued by Nilong River previously. That was just a chance encounter in their journey. It was rare to have a chance encounter like this in one's life. There were many people one could meet in one's life, but most of them were just passers-by. Most of them would never meet again. Therefore, Yun Jian was slightly taken aback when she saw Ning Lanlan. Yun Jian calmed down after her initial shock. "What a coincidence!" Yun Jian replied with a faint smile since she did not have a bad impression of Ning Lanlan. "Are you here for the competition alone too?" Ning Lanlan asked in delight when she saw that Yun Jian did not have any friends with her. Yun Jian nodded. Ning Lanlan was obviously here for the foreign language competition alone. Girls usually like to travel in groups, so did Ning Lanlan. Therefore, when Ning Lanlan heard that Yun Jian was here alone, she was delighted. Since Yun Jian did not have a companion, she could walk with Yun Jian naturally. "Right, I haven't asked you for your name before." Ning Lanlan suddenly thought of this. Moreover, she was a straightforward person, so she spoke up immediately. Yunjian. Yunjian answered with a nod. Yunjian. Ning Lanlan repeated and looked at Yunjian, speaking to Yunjian in an envious tone. Yunjian, your name is so nice. Can I call you Jianjian? Yunjian raised her brow when she heard Ning Lanlan call her Jianjian. She was instantly reminded of Chun Sini. Chun Sini called her Jianjian too. Sure. Yunjian replied softly to Ning Lanlan. Ning Lanlan nodded excitedly. After getting to know Ning Lanlan stood beside Yunjian. Ning Lanlan only left Yunjian's side reluctantly when the competition was about to begin. Jianjian, I'll go gather first. I'll look for you when the competition is over. Ning Lanlan chatted with Yunjian for a while, and realized that she and Yunjian hit it off very well. Therefore, Ning Lanlan did not forget to call out to Yunjian when she was about to head to the gathering point. Yunjian also found Ning Lanlan quite interesting. She had a good impression of Ning Lanlan at first. Now that she heard Ning Lanlan's words, she smiled faintly and nodded at Ning Lanlan. After Ning Lanlan left, Yunjian and the others gathered immediately. I heard that there will be a foreign student coming over to be the judge later. So everyone do your best. We don't need to get first place. Our school just needs to get second place. The female teacher stood in front of everyone and said. This was preaching before the competition. The reason why the female teacher said that they did not need to get first place, and that they only needed to get second place, was because there was foreign languages high school above them. Foreign languages high school's forte was foreign languages, and their teachers were all hired from overseas, so they spoke authentic English. That was why the female teacher said what she said. After all, foreign languages high school had always won first place in foreign language competitions over the years. Look, isn't that guy a foreign student? He's the one who's going to be our judge later. One of the students suddenly saw a tall and sturdy boy walking towards them from afar. What was different was that the boy's skin was fair. In addition to his unique appearance, it was obvious that he was a foreigner. Yunjian turned to look, and could not help squinting when she saw who it was. It was not for anything else but the boy. He was the one who provoked Yunjian when she went abroad to study at Yana High School for a week back then. Chapter 854. Lawson's full name was Charlie Lawson. At that moment, Lawson was being led into the invigilator's venue by a teacher. The students who came to participate in the competition were stunned. Firstly, most of them had never seen a foreigner before. Hence, they could not help but take a few more glances at Lawson when they saw him. Secondly, Lawson's looks were considered handsome among the foreigners. Hence, some of the girls present were slightly stunned. Yunjian pursed her lips. She did not expect to meet Lawson here. Lawson had already been led into the invigilator's venue by the teacher. However, just as Lawson walked into the venue, his eyes had already caught sight of Yunjian before he even stepped into the venue. He was ecstatic when he snapped out of his daze. Yunjian. Lawson saw Yunjian and walked over in surprise. He called out Yunjian's name in glib British Mandarin. The Chinese name was not changed when it was translated into English. The only difference was that it was changed to pinyin. Hence, everyone present could hear who Lawson was calling out to. However, in the next second, Lawson had already abandoned the teacher who led him and ran towards Yunjian. Seeing this, the surrounding students, including those from Longmen First High School and those from other schools, were all shocked. This foreign student knew a student from Country Z? Just as everyone was thinking about this, Lawson had already run in front of Yunjian. When he saw Yunjian, Lawson waved his English that most of the people present could not understand. He said to Yunjian, "I knew you would come. I came all the way from school to find you. Yunjian, I want to compete with you again." The English spoken by the people from Country Z was slightly different from the English spoken by the foreigners. Moreover, Lawson spoke very fluently. Most of the people present were fluent in English, but they could only understand the gist of what Lawson was saying. Some of them could only speak simple English, so they could not understand what Lawson was saying in English. At this moment, everyone present was thinking about one thing. Among the junior high school students, even Ji Xuetong, who was known as the foreign language genius from the foreign languages high school, would have a hard time talking to foreigners, right? Who was Ji Xuetong? Ji Xuetong was a junior high student of foreign languages high school. Everyone knew that Ji Xuetong was a foreign language genius. The reason why she was called a foreign languages prodigy was because she had been learning foreign languages since she was a child. However, the most shocking thing was that this girl named Ji Xuetong was only 16 years old, but she was already learning 3 foreign languages. English was Ji Xuetong's strength. How could someone like Ji Xuetong, who was publicly acknowledged as a foreign languages prodigy, not be present at such a big event? At this moment, a young girl with a tall and slender figure was standing not far away. This young girl was quite pretty. She had the typical big eyes and small lips, but at this moment, she raised her head and looked down on others. This young girl was Ji Xuetong, who was known as the foreign languages prodigy. At this moment, there was a girl standing beside her. The girl was asking her, "Xuetong, what did that foreigner say to that girl over there?" Being questioned by this girl, Ji Xuetong put on an arrogant look. What else can he ask? Can't you understand such simple English? As she spoke, Ji Xuetong raised her peacock-like head even more arrogantly. Her tone was full of disdain for the girl beside her. Chapter 855. Ji Xuetong could not help but think proudly. She could easily communicate with a foreigner like Lawson in proper English. Even she, who was widely acknowledged as a foreign languages prodigy, could not do it. Could the girl standing over there have the ability to do it? She did not believe it. If Yun Jian could communicate with foreigners so easily, then her title of foreign languages prodigy would be hers. Although the girl standing beside Ji Xuetong was unhappy with Ji Xuetong's tone, she still tried to flatter Ji Xuetong. Of course I don't understand, but it's fine as long as our Xuetong understands. Xuetong, you're so good. It must be easy for you to talk to foreigners over there, right? Ji Xuetong forced a smile. That's of course. Although she was good, she was not at the stage where she could talk to foreigners. She could talk normally, but if it was a deep conversation, she could not do it. Even so, Ji Xuetong was very confident that Yun Jian could not talk to Lawson. After all, even a foreign languages prodigy like her, who had been learning English since young, could not do it. How could that girl have the ability to communicate with foreigners? Pff, don't tease me. I don't believe it. Just as Ji Xuetong crossed her arms and looked at Yun Jian and Lawson arrogantly like a white swan, she heard Yun Jian's lips curl. She pursed her lips lightly, and then spoke in fluent English. Another round? What? Yun Jian's fluent English and her exquisite accent stunned everyone present. There was a difference between the English spoken by foreigners and the English spoken by Country Z's people. However, Yun Jian's fluent English just now made some of Country Z's own English teachers concede defeat. With that kind of intonation and accent, could this girl have lived abroad for a long time? However, the people present immediately abandoned this thought. After all, Yun Jian was just a schoolmate who came here to participate in the competition. At this moment, the group of people standing beside Yun Jian were also stunned. Lawson was already having a pleasant conversation with Yun Jian. The two of them had been conversing in English. They spoke so fast that everyone present was confused. Some people couldn't understand at all, while others could understand a sentence or two. What is it? Yun Jian, you decide. I'm fine with anything. Lawson said seriously. From the looks of it, he was not going to let go until he defeated Yun Jian. I refuse. Yun Jian continued to speak. Then she glanced at Lawson from the corner of her eyes, and could not help but remind him. What's more, it's our foreign language competition now. You're the judge. If we compete with you, what about our foreign language competition? Lawson knocked his head hard when he heard Yun Jian's reminder. Damn it! I forgot that I'm the referee now. Lawson shouted. How could he forget that? Yun Jian rolled her eyes at Lawson. From afar, Ji Xuetong saw that Yun Jian and Lawson's fluent English conversation had attracted everyone's attention and envious gazes. She could not help but grit her teeth. This kind of attention and envious gazes could only belong to her. Coincidentally, the girl standing beside Ji Xuetong could not help but exclaim, "Oh my God, she's so good. She can communicate so smoothly with foreigners. I feel like she's even better than Yu Xuetong." The girl suddenly realized that she had said something wrong and quickly covered her mouth. However, to the competitive Ji Xuetong, the girl's words and actions were like needles pricking her ears. Ji Xuetong could not help but bite her lips hard. Chapter 856. With so many people staring at her, Yun Jian naturally could not sense that she was being watched. At that moment, Yun Jian was standing in front of Lawson, urging him to return to his referee's area. Lawson wanted to say more to Yun Jian, but he was urged by the teacher, who led the team just now when the words were on the tip of his tongue. In the end, Lawson could only look at Yun Jian. As he walked away, he could not help but stop and shout at Yun Jian, "Yun Jian, you must wait for me after the competition ends. It's rare for me to come to Country Z. You must bring me around. You must." Yun Jian pursed her lips slightly. Her delicate face was delicate and intriguing. "Okay." Yun Jian nodded lightly. Then, Lawson ran back to where he was supposed to be as a referee. Seeing that the show was over, the students who had formed a circle around the competition also left. The foreign language competition soon began. There were more participants in the competition this time. Before the teachers led the students from their respective schools to the competition venue, they had already arranged each student's group. At that moment, all the students present had been arranged into 4 groups: A, B, C, and D. Class A students were compared to Class A students. It was the same for all the other groups. Class A students were undoubtedly the ones with the best academic results in each school. They started with A's. Once they reached grade D, they would be the students with the worst oral English skills in the school. These groups were arranged by professional English teachers, who went to each school to test the students participating in the competition a few days ago. Yun Jian's oral English was naturally Class A, so she was placed in Group A. The purpose of this grouping was to speed up the competition. After all, there were more participants. After the order was out, the first group to compete was the Class A. Yun Jian was already standing in Group A's queue. She did not see Ning Lanlan, so she guessed that Ning Lanlan was probably not a student in Group A. As for the competition venue, it was the big field of foreign languages middle school. The oral English competition was not a closed competition. During the competition, all the participating students could gather around and watch, but they were not allowed to make a sound. At this time, the students in Group A had already started their competition. The competition was divided into 2 rounds. The first round was to read English. The first round of the competition was very simple. All the contestants had to do was take an English dialogue sheet and read it from beginning to end. Then, the referees would give each student a score based on their level. Yun Jian's spoken English was very good, and everyone present had already heard it. Therefore, when Yun Jian read out the long conversation smoothly, the people present did not feel the initial shock. With Yun Jian as a comparison, Ji Xuetong, who was known as the foreign language prodigy, did not stand out as much. As a result, Ji Xuetong hated Yun Jian even more. In the second round of the competition, all the members of Group A would stand together, and each of them would choose an opponent for a foreign language exchange battle. The 2 of them would communicate in a foreign language until the other party could no longer speak a foreign language, which meant that they had won. The winner could choose the next opponent, and the loser would fight the loser. The winner could rise all the way to the top. The final 2 winners would fight to determine the first, second, and third place. When the students in Group A chose their opponents, the people around them were very nervous. The 2 people who received the most attention were Ji Xuetong, who was known as the foreign language prodigy, and Yun Jian, who could easily converse with foreigners. Chapter 857. Was it that simple and crude? Were the 2 most favored contestants going up against each other right from the start? One had to know that in this round of competition, if she lost to her first opponent, then her ranking would be very low no matter what. It was the same as drawing lots to decide the winner. Only by defeating one's opponent could she continue to challenge other winners. If she couldn't even win the first round, her ranking would definitely not be high. Hence, when Ji Xuetong arrogantly pointed her finger at Yun Jian and said that she would choose Yun Jian, the crowd went wild. Foreign languages prodigy Ji Xuetong versus Yun Jian, who could easily communicate with foreigners. This was undoubtedly the battle that everyone present was looking forward to. Both of them were very good at speaking. Hence, there was a lot of discussion in the crowd. Does it have to be so exciting? The two best contestants are going up against each other right from the start. Who do you think will win? Someone whispered to the people around them. Although the rules stated that no one was allowed to speak, mouths belonged to humans. The teachers naturally couldn't seal the mouths of all the students. Ji Xuetong is Foreign Languages High School's foreign languages prodigy. She was invited to participate in a competition overseas by herself. I heard that she even won the third prize. I think she'll definitely win. That's right, that's right. Although the girl next to her looks prettier than Ji Xuetong and spoke well with the foreigner just now, how can she be compared to our foreign languages prodigy? It's impossible. The surrounding students were gossiping as if they wanted to dig up all the secrets of Ji Xuetong and Yun Jian. When she heard the people around her praising Yun Jian for being prettier than her, Ji Xuetong clenched her fists even tighter. She wasn't afraid, she was furious. Not only did she want to win today, but she also wanted to teach Yun Jian a lesson in front of everyone. She wanted everyone present to see if she, the foreign languages prodigy, was better than this girl who came out of nowhere. Ever since Ji Xuetong pointed her finger at Yun Jian and taunted her to pick her, Yun Jian could already feel Ji Xuetong's hostility toward her. In response, Yun Jian could not help but narrow her eyes. Her pair of exquisite beautiful eyes immediately flashed, and a bright light flashed by. I accept. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. Her large black eyes met Ji Xuetong's provocative gaze. Amidst the cheers and excitement of the crowd, the curtains of this battle had been raised. Ji Xuetong and Yun Jian had the best oral performance, so the first round of the second round was between the two of them. There is no time limit for the foreign language battle. As long as you don't speak Chinese, you can speak any foreign language of any country. In addition, we will be focusing on English, so please start with English. In addition, if you can't answer the next sentence within 3 seconds, then this person is considered to have lost. One of the judges, who was fat and strong, sat on the bench at the front and announced the rules. The rules of this competition were very simple. As long as they didn't talk in Chinese, they could communicate in a foreign language. However, if one person couldn't answer the other person's question within 3 seconds, that person would lose. Hearing that it was not limited to English, and that they could also converse in other languages, Ji Xuetong's arrogant attitude was once again displayed. She could speak 3 foreign languages. In other words, the languages of the 3 kingdoms. Among them, she was best at English. Other than that, she could also converse in simple Japanese and Korean. If that was the case, was Yun Jian not going to lose for sure? Haha, she Ji Xuetong loved the feeling of having victory in her grasp. Who else here could speak 3 foreign languages like her? The answer was no. Chapter 858. Can we begin? It was then that Yun Jian's nonchalant voice rang. She stood in front of the judges while all the teachers and students around her had their eyes on her. Yun Jian, however, did not look shy or afraid at all. On the contrary, Yun Jian stood with her arms crossed in front of her chest. Her lackadaisical manner caused an uproar among the audience. Was Yun Jian not afraid of going up against Ji Xuetong, who was known as the foreign languages prodigy? Or was she already confident of winning? Yes, we can begin. Even the fat and bulky judge was baffled by Yun Jian, but he recovered quickly. Now, I announce the start of the competition. The judge announced in his booming voice once he snapped back to reality. Both of you can start with any language you like. Even if you switch to another language halfway through, You must continue the previous question from your opponent. The judge told Yin Jian and Ji Xuetong again. Other than Ji Xuetong, there were many teachers who knew a lot of foreign languages. Of course, the main reason why Ji Xuetong stood out was that she was only 16 years old. She had the advantage of being young. Yin Jian, go for it. Yin Jian heard Ning Lanlan's cheer from the crowd out of the blue. One could still shout before the competition started. Yin Jian looked back. This time, she caught the source of Ning Lanlan's voice and saw Ning Lanlan, who was sitting in the crowd. Yin Jian returned a smile to Ning Lanlan. I'll start first. Ji Xuetong frowned in annoyance when she saw the situation. She had started the match in English. Since Ji Xuetong had started the match in English, the audience boasted and complimented her again. However, Ji Xuetong had already lifted her head to look at Yin Jian like a proud swan. She asked Yin Jian in a provocative English accent, "What do you like to do on the weekends?" It was usually a simple conversation in a foreign language, but the audience's hearts were clenched tightly. "I'll go running on the weekends to strengthen my body." Yin Jian replied to Ji Xuetong in English smoothly. Right after she replied, Yin Jian asked, "What do you usually like to buy with money?" After 3 minutes, Yin Jian and Ji Xuetong's English conversation was evenly matched. Yin Jian had to admit that Ji Xuetong's English was pretty good. Even though her spoken English was a far cry from formal English, Ji Xuetong could always answer her questions within 3 seconds. The two of them were still conversing in English, but at that moment, Ji Xuetong's forehead was already covered in sweat. She felt like she was about to die. He had to end this battle as soon as possible. Ji Xuetong's lips curled into a smirk. "If you had the chance to travel, where would you choose to go? Why?" Yin Jian tilted her head and looked up. She crossed her arms in front of her chest lazily, as if she did not care about Ji Xuetong at all. "I'll go to France because it's the city of romance." Ji Xuetong said the first half of her sentence in English. Right after she finished speaking, it was Ji Xuetong's turn to ask Yin Jian a question. She curled her lips and asked in Japanese, which was not very accurate, "Where do you usually travel on the weekends?" Ji Xuetong's sudden use of Japanese made everyone present feel refreshed. Here it comes. This Ji Xuetong was someone who could speak 3 foreign languages. Right after Ji Xuetong asked Yin Jian in Japanese, everyone present was certain that Yin Jian was going to lose this time. That was because no one understood what Ji Xuetong meant. Yin Jian probably did not even understand Japanese, right? How could she answer Ji Xuetong's question? In response, Ji Xuetong raised her head arrogantly and looked sideways at Yin Jian. Ji Xuetong was counting down. 3 seconds, 2 seconds. She was going to lose. Chapter 859. Other than English, foreign languages like Japanese and Korean could not be learned in school. Unless one studied in a foreign language high school, there would be a few teachers who knew other languages. Of course, they would only be taught during some elective classes. Of course, it was impossible for students to learn a foreign language in just a week of elective classes. Yin Jian was a student of Longmin Junior High School, and there were no teachers in the school who knew other languages besides English. As for Ji Xuetong, she had been practicing with her tutor on the weekends, so she had learned 3 foreign languages. Initially, they thought that Yin Jian would not be able to understand Ji Xuetong speaking to Yin Jian in Japanese. At least at this moment, everyone present was certain that Yin Jian would lose. In the end, they did not expect Yin Jian to know Japanese. Yin Jian could speak Japanese too. Even Lawson, who was sitting in the referee's seat, could not help but straighten his back. The surrounding students, including the referee, all stared at the scene in front of them with wide eyes. Everyone present was dumbfounded. Ji Xuetong, who had vowed that Yin Jian would lose if she waited for 3 seconds, was now staring at Yin Jian in disbelief. The whole place was silent for a few seconds until Yin Jian asked Ji Xuetong, in her beautiful Japanese voice, "Who do you usually hang out with on the weekends?" This was a very common conversation in a foreign language. Of course, it was not common when it was spoken in a foreign language. Ji Xuetong immediately recovered from her shock, and a sharp glint flashed across her eyes. I usually stay at home with my parents, Ji Xuetong quickly replied in Japanese. At this moment, the atmosphere in the stadium reached its climax. From an English duel to a Japanese duel, who else could have such ability? After all, most of the people present could only determine which language Ji Xuetong and Yun Jian were speaking based on their accents. At this moment, Ji Xuetong suddenly changed her tone. She switched from Japanese to Korean and asked Yun Jian, "May I ask what star sign you are?" Her Korean was not very fluent. To be honest, Ji Xuetong's Korean was not very good. It was even worse than Japanese. However, for most of the people present who did not speak Korean, Ji Xuetong's pronunciation was already quite accurate and impressive. But now, Yun Jian wouldn't do it, would she? After all, Yun Jian couldn't have learned Korean, right? Even Lawson, who was sitting in the referee's seat, was worried for Yun Jian. Ji Xuetong even raised her proud head once more. She knew it. So what if Yun Jian knew 2 foreign languages? Wasn't this still no match for him? Looking at Ji Xuetong's unyielding face, Yun Jian only smiled coldly. She used to ignore people like Ji Xuetong, but she changed her mind today. Gemini. Yun Jian instantly replied Ji Xuetong in fluent Korean. How is this possible? Why did she know 3 foreign languages? How was this possible? Ji Xuetong was so shocked that she took 2 big steps back. However, just as Ji Xuetong took 2 steps back in shock, Yun Jian's voice was heard again. So, do you want to continue? This time it was in Russian. Yun Jian pursed her lips and smiled. She continued, "Maybe you can try to communicate with me in French." This was in French. Actually, I don't mind continuing to talk to you in English. This time it was in Italian. Yun Jian spoke more than 10 languages in one go. The people present could only understand the pronunciation. Some of the languages were unfamiliar to them. Chapter 860. Even the referees who were in charge of hearing incorrectly slammed their tables and stood up in shock. Perhaps some of the students had never heard of the languages Yun Jian spoke before, but the teachers present had a wide range of contacts. They might not be able to understand some of the languages spoken, but they could still determine which language was spoken. It was undeniable that the words that came out of Yun Jian's mouth were in a foreign language. Moreover, Yun Jian spoke the languages of more than 10 countries. Did she start learning foreign languages when she was in her mother's womb? A female teacher who sat in front of the judge's seat bolted up from the table in shock. She looked at Yun Jian, the shock in her eyes clear for everyone to see. "Lin. Teacher Lin Dan." A male teacher saw the female referee stand up and couldn't help but call out to her. The female teacher called Teacher Lin Dan stood up and walked towards Yun Jian. She stared with her big round eyes that seemed to be able to see through everything. At this moment, Teacher Lin Dan was already in front of Yun Jian. She looked at Yun Jian in disbelief and asked Yun Jian, "Student, you know the languages of more than 10 countries?" Everyone present was stunned when they heard Teacher Lin Dan's words. Who was this Teacher Lin Dan? She was the most senior foreign language teacher in Foreign Languages High School. She had mastered 5 foreign languages so far. Even in the entire Zhe province, she could temporarily occupy a position among the teachers. Yun Jian replied Teacher Lin Dan indifferently. Then, she turned her eyes to Ji Xuetong, who was trembling in shock and unable to move. Yun Jian had always been the one to provoke others. No one had ever provoked her, Yun Jian. Therefore, Yun Jian wasn't afraid of exposing her background or being suspected. She looked up and stared straight at Ji Xuetong. Yun Jian's provocative words were the same as Ji Xuetong's. She returned the same provocation back to her. "Do you still want to compete? You can choose any language from all over the world. I'm always up for it." After Yun Jian finished speaking, she even blinked. She looked innocent and smiled faintly. "Oh right, I forgot to tell you that other than knowing the languages of all over the country, I also know the local languages of some countries. What do you think? Do you want to compete again? I think we can fight for 100 rounds without a problem." If one were to ask why Yun Jian knew so many languages, It was because Yun Jian had traveled all over the country as slaying God in her past life. The missions that she took on assassinations of important people from all over the country. However, in order to kill him, he had to sneak in. And in order to sneak in, he had to learn the local language. Yun Jian was fast and precise. She was able to master the simplest language in the shortest time. Of course, other than foreign languages like English and Chinese, that were used more frequently, Yun Jian could only communicate in many other languages. If she were to write these languages down, she might only be able to write a few of them with her standard. Yun Jian's provocative words made everyone burst out in laughter. Soon there was a flurry of discussion. Haha, this is so exciting. This girl knows the languages of a dozen countries. That's amazing. I used to think that Ji Xuetong was the foreign languages prodigy and the best student in Longmen City. I didn't expect that there would always be someone better than her. Now that this girl is here, the foreign languages prodigy Ji Xuetong isn't even fit to carry her shoes. That's right. Ji Xuetong and I are in the same school. When she was crowned as the foreign languages prodigy, she was so smug, like she was invincible in the universe. Humph. Let's see how she can still be so smug now. Chapter 861. Ji Xuetong did not have a good relationship with others. Due to her arrogant personality in the past, many people disapproved of her. Yun Jian's actions were like a tight slap to Ji Xuetong's face. Some of the students almost stood up and cheered when they saw that. Ji Xuetong's face turned pale instantly when she heard the people's comments about her. Yun Jian only found it funny. In the end, the judges announced that Yun Jian had defeated Ji Xuetong. Ji Xuetong left the stage with a pale face. She claimed that she was not feeling well and left without participating in the rest of the competition. Apart from that, Yun Jian's opponent could only admit that they were unlucky. What a joke! Yun Jian knew more than 10 foreign languages. If they were not unlucky to go up against her, what was? The judges announced the results on the spot when the members of Group A were done with their competition. Naturally, the first place went to Yun Jian. However, Yun Jian did not feel proud or complacent at all. Therefore, many of the students were impressed by Yun Jian. The junior division's competition was divided into 4 groups: A, B, C, and D. Once Group A's competition ended, there was nothing for them to do. However, since there were students from Longmen Yizhang among the 4 groups, Yun Jian had to stay here and wait for Group D's competition to end before she could return to Longmen Yizhang with the rest of the students. She had nothing to do during this period. Ning Lanlan was in Group B. Yun Jian waited for Ning Lanlan's competition to end before sneaking off with her from the junior division to the senior division. Yun Jian was going to look for Yun Yi. When Ning Lanlan heard that Yun Jian was going to look for someone in the senior division, she blushed instantly. In the end, Ning Lanlan stammered and said that she knew a senior from the senior division. Ning Lanlan was a student from Foreign Languages High School. Yun Jian told her that while they were walking and chatting. As Ning Lanlan was a student of Foreign Languages High School, she knew the route very well. With Ning Lanlan leading the way, Yun Jian soon arrived at the senior section from the junior section of Foreign Languages High School. Because Yun Yi was a high school student, even if they came to participate in the competition would be held in the High School of Foreign Languages High School. Jian, we can't go over here. There's a wall between the junior and senior sections. The teachers usually forbid junior section students from going to the senior section too, Ning Lanlan said dejectedly. However, as soon as she said that, Ning Lanlan suddenly pulled herself together. She looked at Yun Jian and said, "Right, we can sneak a few glances at the fence of the basketball court. I should be able to see something." The word secretly made Yun Jian curl her lips. Meanwhile, Yun Jian had brought Ning Lanlan to the junction between the junior and senior sections of Foreign Languages High School. In front of them was a wall that was more than 2 meters high. Yun Jian pointed at the wall and asked Ning Lanlan from the back, "Is the high school section through here?" Ning Lanlan nodded, a little scared yet a little excited. "Yeah, Come on. Yun Jian hinted at Ning Lanlan with her hand, then pointed at the wall and asked, Do you know how to climb walls? Ning Lanlan looked at the wall that was more than 2 meters high, and shook her head with a shudder. Give me your hand, Yun Jian said with a squint. Ning Lanlan was suspicious, but she still handed her hand to Yun Jian obediently. Just as she passed her hand to Yun Jian pulled her hand and dashed toward the wall. Ning Lanlan was so scared that her soul almost flew out of her body. When Yun Jian pulled her hand toward the wall, and they were about to crash into it, Yun Jian suddenly wrapped her arms around Ning Lanlan's slim waist, and leaped with both feet on the ground. Chapter 862. On the other side of the wall, a group of teenagers was running at full speed. They were about 17 or 18 years old, probably in high school. They were currently playing basketball on the basketball court. Foreign Languages High School's high school basketball court was just over there. In fact, there was a fence not far away. Looking through the fence, some boys from the high school could be seen playing basketball. Jiming, quick! Pass the basketball to me. The teenagers running on the basketball court were doing vigorous exercises. They were drenched in sweat. Even though it was spring before summer, some of the boys had taken off their shirts to show off, revealing their muscular upper bodies. There were some girls sitting around them. They were currently watching the teenagers on the basketball court with intense screams. It was also at this moment that a sharp scream rang out, and at the same time, it was heard clearly by everyone present. The teenagers who were running on the basketball court looked at the high school's wall at the same time. All they saw were 2 heads on the wall all of a sudden. In the distance, some of the girls who were watching the group of teenagers running on the basketball court suddenly saw 2 heads appear on the wall. At this moment, they were so scared that they screamed out loud. The group of youths who were still running on the basketball court all stopped in their tracks. Don't scream. Yun Jian was holding on to the top of the wall with one hand, preventing her and Ning Lanlan from sliding down. Ning Lanlan shut her mouth as soon as she heard Yun Jian's voice. In the next second, Ning Lanlan felt Yun Jian stomp hard on the wall they were hanging on. She felt Yun Jian using the momentum to push both of their bodies against the wall. Ning Lanlan shrieked uncontrollably. However, she quickly covered her mouth when she realized what had happened. The youths who were running on the basketball court, and even the girls who saw Yun Jian and Ning Lanlan's heads from afar only saw that Yun Jian leaped off the wall while carrying Ning Lanlan. Even though she was carrying Ning Lanlan, Yun Jian's speed and movements were enough to astonish everyone present. The teenagers who were playing basketball held their breaths in shock. One of the youths looked at Yun Jian and exclaimed in shock, "Oh my god, this girl is amazing!" Before Ning Lanlan, who had just returned to her senses, could react, a male voice called out to her, "Lanlan? Why are you here?" Ning Lanlan lifted her head abruptly when she heard the voice. When she saw the boy's face clearly, she shouted in shock, Senior Jiming?" The moment Yun Jian heard the tone, she knew that the boy whom Ning Lanlan addressed as Senior Jiming was most likely the senior whom Ning Lanlan had mentioned to her before. It was only then that Xiao Jiming glanced at Ning Lanlan and Yun Jian. His lips curled slightly as he asked, "You guys climbed over the wall?" "Jian brought me here," Ning Lanlan said after she came to her senses. "Hey, Jiming, when did you get to know these 2 beauties? What? Why don't you introduce them to me?" Just as Xiao Jiming and Ning Lanlan exchanged a few words, a ruffian-looking boy came over to put an arm around Xiao Jiming's shoulders and asked, "Hi, I'm Ning Lanlan. This is my friend Yun Jian. We're here to look for Jian's brother. He's a student who's here to participate in your high school's foreign language competition." Ning Lanlan told the ruffian-looking boy, "Oh, it's a foreign language competition. That's easy, we'll take you there," the ruffian-looking boy said at once. The ruffian-looking boy then turned to Yun Jian. His face was filled with teasing. Chapter 863. Yun Jian did not even bother with the ruffian-looking guy, which made him very upset. When Yun Jian walked forward with Ning Lanlan, one of the guys standing beside the basketball hoop mocked the ruffian-looking guy. Shanziheo. Ha ha ha. I didn't expect you to be ignored by a girl. The ruffian-looking guy's name was Shanziheo. He was thin and lean, the type that girls liked. He was quite tall, about 1.78 meters, with short black hair. He looked like the type that young girls liked. However, Yunjian did not even bother with him, which shocked Shanziheo. He had never been disliked by a girl like that before. Interesting, this girl is really interesting. Hey babes, don't walk so fast. I'll bring you over there. Shanziheo took off his clothes from the basketball hoop, thinking that he looked cool. He then ran after Yunjian and Ning Lanlan. Meanwhile, the senior that Ning Lanlan knew, Xiao Jiming, was already leading the way for Yunjian and Ning Lanlan. Xiao Jiming was the kind of person who looked gentle. He did not usually like to show off his abilities. Just like the group of young men led by Shanziheo, who liked to show off in front of the girls, without their upper bodies. Xiao Jiming's appearance was indeed handsome, and he was also the type that was quite popular among girls. However, his character was extremely gentle and refined, and he treated people very modestly. Xiao Jiming was standing next to Ning Lanlan, leading the way for Yunjian and Ning Lanlan. When Shanziheo saw this, he quickly ran over and hugged Xiao Jiming's shoulders from behind like a brother hugging a brother. Hey, I'll go with you guys. Shanziheo was not like Xiao Jiming. He obviously followed them, because he wanted to pick up girls. On the other hand, Xiao Jiming only brought Yunjian and Ning Lanlan over, because he wanted to show them the way. Shanziheo, why are you joining in the fun? We're missing 2 people now. Are we not playing anymore? The few young men who were playing basketball did not follow them. However, one of them shouted at Shanziheo, I'm not playing anymore, haha. I'm going to join in the fun. Shanzi laughed and waved his hand. However, Yunjian didn't care about Shanziheo at all. Shanziheo was walking on Xiao Jiming's left. Ning Lanlan was on Xiao Jiming's right while Yunjian was on Ning Lanlan's right. The 4 of them stood side by side, but Yunjian didn't say much at all. The foreign language competition is up ahead, Xiao Jiming said. Xiao Jiming did not participate in the foreign language competition. They were only in PE class now. However, many students from foreign languages high school would rush over to watch the competition after class. Therefore, Xiao Jiming and the others could move around freely. Ning Lanlan lowered her head and nodded shyly. Yunjian, who was standing by the side, could tell with a single glance that Ning Lanlan was most likely interested in Xiao Jiming. However, Yunjian didn't think too much about it. At this moment, they had arrived at the foreign language competition venue of the high school. It was also crowded here. Yunjian looked around for a long time, but did not see her brother. However, she saw a familiar face. Su Haokol. Yunjian's lips curled up slightly. As long as she found Su Haokol, it meant that Yunyi must be nearby. This was because Su Haokol was Yunjian's best buddy. Su Haokol was also Su Zetian's son. Before Yunjian walked over, she saw that Su Haokol had noticed her as well. Chapter 864. Su Haokol walked over with a hearty smile on his face. Yunjian met his face. She returned his smile without losing any of her poise. I'm here to look for my brother. After a pause, Yunjian asked again, Where's my brother? Yunyi must be with Su Haokol. Yunjian was certain of that. He went to the toilet. I'm waiting for him here. The competition is starting soon, Su Haokol said simply to Yunjian. Yunjian nodded. Su Haokol was Su Zetian's son. Su Zetian was currently managing Falcon Hall on behalf of Yunjian. Some time ago, Su Zetian was severely injured and handed Falcon Hall over to Duan Lei to manage. At that thought, Yunjian asked Su Haokol, How's your father's recovery coming along? Little sister Yunyi knows about my father's injuries? Su Haokol was slightly shocked. Although Su Haokol was Su Zetian's son, he knew that his father's Dragon Head gang had been taken over by a woman named Rakshasa, and was renamed Falcon Hall. However, Su Haokol had never heard Su Zetian mention who the current boss of Falcon Hall was. Moreover, he did not know if he knew that Yunjian was the current boss of Falcon Hall. Su Zetian didn't reveal a single thing to his son. Hence, When Su Haokol heard Yun Jian ask about his father's injuries, he was stunned for a while. However, Su Haokol was stunned for a while, but still nodded in confusion. Dad's much better now. He's almost recovered. Even Su Haokol was stunned, let alone Ning Lanlan and the others. Which teenage girl would ask about her father's injuries directly when meeting someone she knew? Yun Jian's actions made it hard for others not to overthink. However, Yun Jian wasn't bothered at all. She pointed at Ning Lanlan and introduced her to Su Haokol. She's my friend Ning Lanlan. Then everyone present got to know each other. However, not only did Ning Lanlan remember Yun Jian asking about Su Haokol's father's injury, but even Xiao Jiming and Shan Zihao remembered it. Shan Zihao almost blurted out the question, why did Yun Jian care about someone else's father? But in the end Shan Zihao held back. It had to be said that Yun Jian gave Shan Zihao a good first impression. However, Shan Zihao couldn't help but feel a little suspicious after hearing what he said. Could it be that Yun Jian had an affair with Su Haokol's father? Just as she thought about it, a voice familiar to Yun Jian rang. Xiao Jian? When she snapped back to reality, it was Yun Yi who was walking over from the washroom. Guh. Yun Jian grinned and introduced himself to Ning Lanlan and the others. Once everyone was familiar with each other, she strolled to the center of the competition area. When she saw Yun Yi, Yun Jian could not help whispering to him that Qingyu was coming back soon. When Yun Yi heard Yun Jian say that Qingyu was coming back, a glint flashed across his deep eyes. There was no need to mention how excited he looked. Qingyu had been spending time with her parents in her hometown recently. Now that she was coming back, of course, Yun Yi was delighted. My parents will come and cheer for me. Su Haokol had just received a call and came back excitedly. For those who were about to start the competition, it was undoubtedly the happiest thing to have their family by their side. There was no other. Once he heard that Su Haokol's parents were coming, Shan Zihao's dark eyes flickered as he turned to look at Yun Jian. Shan Zihao had thought that Yun Jian might be having an affair with Su Haokol's father. After all, it was a little unreasonable for a girl to ask if someone's father was okay. Chapter 865. Comparatively speaking, Su Haojia's current mood was simply indescribable with excitement. When Su Zetian was the boss of Longmen City's top mafia group, Su Haokol dared not reveal the news to his friends. When Yun Yi found out later that Yun Yi treated him like a brother instead of distancing himself from him, it was impossible for Su Haokol not to be touched. What outsiders did not know was that Su Haokol yearned for his father's love and care. Su Haokol had known since he was young that his father would not appear in public. His father's birthday banquet was even used by Su Zetian as a meal to better bond with his father. What more the usual occasions? Su Haokol's results were excellent. Although he had the capital to get in through the back door, Su Haokol and Yun Yi had both gotten into DE High School with their own abilities. He did not want to use his father's status as the boss of Longmen City. However, everything seemed to have changed after Dragon Head Gang was taken away by the woman named Slaying Luo. His father was still the boss of Falcon Hall, but now his father had much more free time than before. Since his father was heavily injured recently, Falcon Hall's boss, Slaying Luo, had given his father a long vacation. Su Haokol was very happy now, because he had hoped that his parents could be by his side. Now his parents could even take time out to visit him. Su Haokol was very grateful to Slaying Luo of Falcon Hall. If Slaying Luo were to stand in front of him now, he would definitely thank her profusely. Isn't that a good thing? Haha. Yun Yi was in high spirits as well, wrapping his arm around Su Haokol's shoulder joyfully. Su Haokol nodded solemnly as he looked at his good buddy, who was willing to talk about anything. Yun Jian smiled faintly as she stood on the side. When she smiled, the scenery around her seemed to brighten up for her. Shan Zihao could not help being dumbfounded. However, once he thought that Yun Jian might really be having an affair with Su Haokol's father, his gaze darkened. He wanted to see what kind of person Su Haokol's father was. They're here. Su Haokol said excitedly to Yun Yi with his phone in hand. Sure. Just as Su Haokol was about to look around with his phone, a mature female voice called out, Yun Jian, Su Haokol, and the other's head. Su Zetian was slowly walking over with his wife's support. Su Zetian's injuries were much better now. It wouldn't be long before he would be able to fully recover. Dad! Mom! When he saw his father Luo's father and his mother, his father's and in Luo, his mother and his mother in Luo's for him. In the blink of an eye, Su Zetian and Lin Wanru were already in front of the group. Su Zetian merely nodded at Su Haokol. Lin Wanru came over to stroke Su Haokol's head with the motherly love of a woman. In spite of it, Su Zetian froze the moment he saw Yun Jian. This scene was seen by Shan Zihao, who was extremely sensitive, and he was taken aback. Was this person Su Haokol's father? Moreover, seeing how Su Zetian froze when he saw Yun Jian, Shan Zihao was even more suspicious that there was something going on between them. Just as Shan Zihao thought about it, Su Zetian's surprised voice called out to Yun Jian, Sister Jian? Why are you here? Chapter 866. Just as Su Zetian called out to Sister Jian, Lin Wanru, who was holding his arm and supporting him, turned her head. Lin Wanru was a very virtuous wife. She was very responsible. When she heard that Su Zetian was in trouble, she was scared out of her wits. It was just that Yun Jian saved Su Zetian later. Therefore, Lin Wanru was immensely grateful to Yun Jian. Su Haokol's father actually called Yun Jian Sister Jian? Called Yun Jian sister? Why was that? Shan Zihao's impure thoughts were tossed to the back of his mind as he stared blankly. Shan Zihao even wanted to slap himself. Su Haokol's father called Yun Jian Sister Jian in such a respectful tone. How could he possibly have an impure relationship with Yun Jian? Moreover, Lin Wanru's subsequent behavior further proved this point. Su Zetian could walk on his own without being helped. Therefore, when Lin Wanru saw Yun Jian, she let go of Su Zetian's hand and went to Yun Jian. Looking at Yun Jian, she spoke to Yun Jian in a very respectful tone. It's you? Do you know my genre? Before Yun Jian could speak, Su Haokol was already asking Lin Wanru in confusion. Mom, she's my friend's younger sister. Lin Wanru was already holding Yun Jian's hand in a friendly manner as she looked at Yun Jian and said, I see. I'm really grateful to you back then. I didn't expect you to be the younger sister of my genre's friend. Lin Wanru went on to thank Yun Jian, but other than Su Zetian, everyone else present was baffled and had no idea what was going on. Although the people present were dumbfounded, they could still make out the gist of it. There was a high chance that Yun Jian had helped Lin Wanru and Su Zetian in some big deal. No matter how they guessed, no one would have guessed that Yun Jian was Su Zetian's boss, and that it was Yun Jian who had saved Su Zetian from the jaws of death when he was seriously injured. She was practically a lifesaver. Lin Wanru held Yun Jian's hand and thanked her profusely. Yun Jian nodded nonchalantly until an announcement came from the broadcast. Students, please gather at the competition venue. The foreign language competition is about to begin. Once they heard that, Yun Yi and Su Haokol hurried to the venue. Dad, Mom, Sister Yi, come with us. The competition will be starting in a while. You can watch us from there, explained Su Haokol, and Yun Yi then led their group to the venue, with Yun Jian and Yun Jian followed them. When they arrived at the competition venue, there were fewer people here than in the junior department, but there was still a lot of traffic. Not long after Yun Jian stood there, she caught sight of a familiar face in the blink of an eye. Mr. Peter? She saw that Peter was talking to Headmaster Zhang of Foreign Languages High School in the distance. Principal Zhang of Foreign Languages High School looked very respectful to Peter, and Peter also put his hands behind his back. His skin was delicate, and there was a hint of handsomeness between his eyebrows. His nose was straight, and he looked like a mixed blood. Wasn't Mr. Peter the thief who stole the antiques from Zhe province last time? What? Did he steal them to the school? Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. Peter even put on a serious posture and walked side by side with Headmaster Zhang of Foreign Languages High School. He had just turned a corner when he saw Yun Jian, who was looking at him with narrowed eyes. Peter was still striding forward, but when he saw Yun Jian, he was so scared that he lost his footing and sprained his left foot. Chapter 867. Peter had been talking to Principal Zhang of Foreign Languages High School in a serious manner just now. Moreover, Peter had been praised by Principal Zhang. Pete, who was still drowning in the praises just now, was flummoxed the moment he saw Yun Jian. Peter sprained his ankle, but he did not care about the pain at all. He looked at Yun Jian with fear in his eyes, as if he was afraid that Yun Jian would charge at him. Meanwhile, Peter said to Principal Zhang, Principal Zhang, I'm leaving now. Let's talk about this next time. Hey, Mr. Peter. Principal Zhang had just opened his mouth when he saw Peter had already turned around and was about to run to the school building. Principal Zhang was a little surprised. Seeing that Peter was about to run to the school building, he was even more suspicious. Why is Mr. Peter running to the school building when he's leaving? Shouldn't he be heading to the school gate? Just as Principal Zhang was thinking about that, a teenage girl around 16 years old suddenly walked up to him. She stood in front of everyone and shouted at Peter's back, Peter, where do you think you're going? Yun Yi and Su Haokol, who had yet to gather at the competition venue, were stunned. Shan Zihao and Xiao Jiming, who had been on the basketball team since the beginning, were stunned. Ning Lanlan was completely dumbfounded. Su Zetian and his wife, Lin Wanru, were also looking at Yun Jian, who was walking toward Peter, with bewilderment. The group of people was dumbfounded as they watched Yun Jian call out to Peter. Why is Yun Jian calling out to him again? Does he know her? The people present were stunned because of bewilderment. Shan Zihao's eyes narrowed even more when he saw Yun Jian taking a step forward to stop Peter. What does she want? However, no matter what, Shan Zihao felt that his interest in her was growing. Meanwhile, everyone saw Peter stop in his tracks from afar. Peter's feet came to a sudden halt. He wanted to slip away, but Yun Jian called out to him. Peter also knew that if he didn't stop, with Yun Jian's strength, she would definitely catch up to him. Peter, on the other hand, was one of the best thieves in the world. He was not afraid of anything except Yun Jian. The antique that was stolen in Jia province last time was recovered by Yun Jian. Motherf **Ker, why is she everywhere? Peter slowly turned his head and smiled at Yun Jian, but it was a forced and bitter smile. Hey, what a coincidence, we meet again. Peter looked at Yun Jian with a smile that was more awkward than crying. If he had known that Yun Jian would be here today, he wouldn't have come even if he was beaten to death. No, it's just a coincidence. As Yun Jian spoke, she had already arrived in front of Peter. The people watching from afar were a little suspicious. Yun Jian was acquainted with this man? Yun Yi, Su Haokol, Su Zetian, Zhang Zihao and the others were just thinking about it. Even Principal Zhang was a little confused as to why Peter, who was full of confidence just now, would talk to Yun Jian in such a scared tone. Peter suddenly changed his tone. He looked at Yun Jian, and in the next second, he clasped his hands together and bent over to look at Yun Jian with a comical and begging posture. Oh my God, I beg you to forgive me. The thing you wanted last time was something I obtained with great difficulty, and I've already given it to you. I really don't have anything on me now, so please let me go, huh? Oh my God. Because of you, I'm about to go begging on the streets. Peter, a grown man, actually begged for mercy in front of Yun Jian. The people present were confused and shocked. Chapter 868. As an international master thief, Peter's stealing skills were exceptionally high. His nimble skills could be considered as one of the best in the world. It could be said that he had only been robbed twice since he debuted. Both times, it was because of Yun Jian. The first time was because of Yun Jian in his past life, and the other time was the theft of antiques in Jia province not long ago. Both times, Yun Jian had recovered the stolen items. Peter had promised his employer that he could steal the items, and his employer had even paid a deposit. Because of Yun Jian's interference, Not only did Peter fail to complete his mission, he even had to pay 10 times the penalty. 10 times the penalty was as high as hundreds of millions of US dollars. Therefore, to Peter, the scariest thing in his life was not encountering a ghost, but encountering Yun Jian. That was why Peter wanted to slip away the moment he saw Yun Jian. Never in his wildest dreams did he expect to run into Yun Jian here. It was scarier than being caught absent-mindedly in class. Did you do something bad again? Yun Jian narrowed her eyes at Peter and crossed her arms in front of her chest. Her relaxed posture made Peter's heart clench. No. How could I? Do I dare? Peter spoke fluent Chinese, but it wasn't hard to see that Peter was a mixed race. One of his parents was probably from country Z. Please let me go. I have parents and children to take care of. I really didn't do anything bad this time. Can you do me a favor and not harass me? Peter's fear of Yun Jian had reached a whole new level. He kept calling her grandaunt, which made Yun Jian dizzy. Yun Jian was not here to cause trouble for Peter. She was just surprised to see him here and wanted to go over to greet him. She did not expect Peter to avoid her like the plague, so Yun Jian called out to him playfully. Xiao Jian, what's this? At this moment, Yun Yi and the others had also followed Yun Jian over. They looked at the scene in front of them in shock. Old friend, Yun Jian said readily. My dear mother, great aunt, I don't dare to be friends with you. Peter was a straightforward person. He made an exaggerated gesture. His fear of Yun Jian was exaggerated and comical. Why was he so afraid of Yun Jian? Yun Jian was not a river beast. Yun Yi and Su Haokol were not the only ones who were shocked. Ning Lanlan, Xiao Jiming, and Shan Zihao, in particular, could not be more stunned. If Yun Jian looked so scary then, just as everyone thought of this, they saw Principal Zhang standing in front of Yun Jian. Principal Zhang paused before speaking to Yun Jian. Student, I don't know which school you're from, but I can assure you that Mr. Peter isn't a bad person. Not only am I the principal of Foreign Languages High School, but I'm also the president of Dragon Gate Charity Organization and the director of Huiyin Orphanage. There are too many children in this world who are suffering from despair and pain. They're orphans and have no one to rely on. Some of them can't even feed themselves 3 times a day. Huiyin Orphanage has adopted a large number of such children. They don't have a source of income, so even food and clothing are a problem. In recent years, however, it's Mr. Peter who's donated a large sum of money to Huiyin Orphanage every month to help the children grow up. We and the children are very grateful to him. Chapter 869. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes at Principal Zhang's righteous words that were filled with reverence for Peter. She was stunned for 2 seconds as well. Who would have thought that Peter had stolen so many cultural relics and earned so much money just to donate them? It was no wonder Peter looked so pathetic every time. According to what Yun Jian knew, Peter accepted all kinds of missions. With Peter's capability, how could he be so poor that he would accept the lowest level of theft? When Yun Jian saw him in the past, Peter had always made himself poor. Yun Jian was skeptical. Peter was an international thief after all. Where did he spend all the money he earned all these years, and spend it all so quickly? He even made himself look like a poor man. Now Yun Jian knew. You're quite capable. Yun Jian smiled faintly, and even flashed her pearly white teeth at Peter. We're old friends. Why don't we go for a walk? Peter was stunned for 2 seconds. Was he seeing things? Did he just see a friendly gaze in Yun Jian's eyes? Oh, okay. For some reason, Peter agreed to Yun Jian's request. Once he agreed, however, he regretted it immediately. He was freaking terrified of Yun Jian. The few times he saw Yun Jian, he was always tortured by Yun Jian. The last time they met, Yun Jian had even snatched the antique he had risked his life to get. Xiao Jian, Zhou and I are going for the competition. They could not forget about the competition. Yun Yi looked at Yun Jian. He had no idea how Yun Jian knew Peter, but the latter did not look like a bad guy. So he followed Su Haokol to the competition venue without worry. Shan Zihao and the others were dumbfounded by what they saw. Yun Jian then started chatting with Peter. Su Zetian and Lin Wanru had already followed them to watch Su Haoko's competition. After the few of them left, only Ning Lanlan, Xiao Jiming, and Shan Zihao were left in the area. Principal Zhang also left later because he had something to do. Coincidentally, it wasn't easy for Ning Lanlan and Xiao Jiming to meet each other. The two of them chatted happily. Thus, the only person who stood beside Yun Jian and Peter to listen to their conversation was Shan Zihao. Shan Zihao already had a good impression of Yun Jian. Now that he saw how friendly Yun Jian was with Peter, he felt slightly displeased. But at this moment, Shan Zihao was completely ignored. He could only stand aside and listen. He stood there like a ruffian, but he didn't leave. After Yun Jian and Peter calmed down and chatted for a while, she realized that Peter's character was actually quite good. Especially Peter, after talking to Yun Jian, his fear of Yun Jian was reduced by 2 points. Hey grandaunt, so your house is in Longmen City? Peter did not realize that he did not know Yun Jian's name, and was still addressing Yun Jian as grandaunt. I'm Yun Jian. If I hear grandaunt again, I'll snatch your stuff again. Yun Jian smirked and said as if she was threatening Peter. Damn grandaunt you. No, Yun Jian, don't snatch my stuff. If it weren't for you, I, Peter, would still be the holder of 0 failures in the underworld. I might even be awarded a big prize one day. Peter struck a narcissistic pose and told Yun Jian. Yun Jian and Peter got into the conversation as they chatted. Shan Zihao, on the other hand, had no idea what was going on. He had no idea what Yun Jian and Peter were talking about. Snatch his stuff? What holder of 0 failures in the underworld? Chapter 870. However, the more mysterious Yun Jian became, the more Shan Zihao wanted to dig out Yun Jian's secrets. All in all, Shan Zihao's interest in Yun Jian was growing. Yun Jian pressed her lips together and smiled softly at Peter's amusing words. Not anymore. Yun Jian then looked up at Peter. What about you? Why did you appear in Longmen City? Me. Peter chuckled at the mention of himself and pointed at himself with a smile. My grandma is from Longmen City. I got lost when I was young and spent my time in the orphanage. The hard days in the orphanage weren't even 1,000th of what came after, but to me, the unbearable hunger was the hardest time of my life. Since then, I've donated all the money I earned to the orphanage. Longmen City is my grandma's hometown, of course. I have to give priority to the donation. Peter shrugged and continued in a gloomy tone. Actually, my mother came from the Huiyan orphanage. She got sick from starvation when she was young, so she died of cancer at a young age. When I found her home, she was already gone. Only my grandma was left at home. When Peter's grandmother was young, they were poor and had many children. Even food was a problem for the family when they could not afford to eat. Helpless, they could only send Peter's mother to Huiyan orphanage, hoping that she could survive. Huiyan orphanage had little to eat, and the children grew up hungry. Peter's mother grew up and became successful. She met Peter's father when she was traveling abroad. Peter's father was from country Y, but Peter's mother insisted on being with him, despite the hardships of a foreign relationship. They could have lived happily together as a family. However, Peter's mother fell sick. It was a terminal illness due to starvation in the orphanage when she was young. Peter's mother passed away not long after. Peter's grandmother was a snobbish person. She had always thought that Peter's mother was not good enough for Peter's father. Therefore, when Peter's mother passed away and Peter's father was dispirited, his grandmother sent Peter to an orphanage in Country Z. Peter spent an indescribable time in the orphanage. Later on, Peter was taken away by an old master, and was taught the old master's lifelong skills of stealing. Through Peter's own hard work, he became the current international thief, Mr. Peter. In fact, Pete was a ZY hybrid. Of course, Peter didn't say that he was a thief in front of Shan Zihao. He just made a rough summary, and summarized the whole story with a similar story. After listening to Peter's story, Yun Jian was slightly shaken. Not to mention Shan Zihao. At this moment, Shan Zihao sympathized with Peter. However, it had to be said that Peter was a talent. Perhaps the thieving skills that Peter's master had taught him could only help him become one of the best thieving masters in the country. This had something to do with talent. At the very least, Peter was able to become a world-class master thief because of his own efforts. When Shan Zihao saw Yunjian listening to Peter's touching story, he felt that girls would usually cry after hearing such a touching story. However, when Shan Zihao turned his gaze to Yunjian, he saw Yunjian looking at Peter and saying something completely different from what Shan Zihao had imagined. "Follow me and you can set the salary." Yunjian narrowed her eyes. Her confident look surprised Shan Zihao. Chapter 871. Work with her? What for? What could he do by following her? These were Shan Zihao's thoughts. Shan Zihao's current state of mind was indescribable. Yunjian's actions were getting more mysterious. Of course, the more mysterious Yunjian was, the more Shan Zihao's interest in Yunjian grew. Humans were all despicable, especially those like Shan Zihao, who lived like a prince. In foreign languages high school, Shan Zihao was no doubt the target of girls' adoration. Not only was he handsome and pleasing to the eyes, but he also had the cool personality that girls liked. It was rare for him to meet a girl like Yunjian. Not only did Yunjian ignore him in the beginning, the sense of mystery she exuded had only intensified since the beginning. She brought Ning Lanlan over the wall, her unusual skills, Su Haokol's father calling her sister Jian, and the fact that Peter, a mixed blood, was so fearful of her. Shan Zihao's interest was gradually piqued as he listened to these stories. The more unobtainable something was, the more one wanted to explore it. Shan Zihao was probably the epitome of this saying. It was then that Peter cried out in shock. "Work with you? I can set my salary? For real?" Peter scanned Yunjian from head to toe. After all, Yunjian gave him a terrifying vibe. When Yunjian robbed him of his stolen items, it was no different from robbing him of his money. Now, Yunjian was telling him to work with her and set his salary as he pleased. To Peter, he was already extremely lucky that Yunjian did not steal his things. Now she was asking him to work for her? "I'm not joking. I just want an answer from you. Do you agree or not?" Yunjian crossed her arms in front of her chest. She was not in a hurry for Peter's answer. Peter kept quiet for a while. It was only when Yunjian spoke again that he snapped back to reality. "Of course. As long as you agree, I'll send someone to get you out of Fox Hunters' control immediately." Peter had signed a long-term contract with Fox Hunters. As an international thief, he naturally had a backer. The Fox Hunting Organization was an internationally renowned organization of thieves. The reason why the Fox Hunting Organization was called a thief organization was because it was different from the Hun organization and the kosher mercenaries. The Fox Hunting Organization had a quirk, which was that they only accepted things that their employers wanted to steal or treasures that they wanted to find. Other than that, it never accepted missions that involved killing people. It could be said that the Fox Hunting Organization was the concentration camp for Peter and his group of thieves. Therefore, the Fox Hunting Organization, the Hun organization, and the kosher mercenaries did not have any conflicts of interest. However, Yunjian knew that Peter had signed a 10-year contract with the Fox Hunting Organization. In other words, for the next 10 years, Peter would work for the Fox Hunting Organization. In other words, for the next 10 years, all the missions he took on would have to go through the Fox Hunting Organization. Furthermore, during this period, half of the money he earned would have to be shared with the Fox Hunting Organization. Under such circumstances, Peter really wanted to get rid of the Fox Hunting Organization. Yunjian's words were more tempting than anything else. As expected, the moment Yunjian finished her words, Peter's eyes lit up. He looked at Yunjian with a very excited gaze. "Really? You can really help me get rid of the Fox Hunting Organization? Are you willing to work for me?" Yunjian did not give Peter a definite answer. She only repeated her previous question. "Yes, yes, yes." Peter nodded his head like a rattledrum. Shan Zihao, who was standing at the side, saw this. He looked at Yunjian and Peter with even more shock than before. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.